This episode of the AFTN Soccer Show is brought to you by Recovery Family Law. Recovery Family Law is here to help you solve your family law problems. If you are going through a separation or divorce, they can provide you the confidence to make good decisions and support to enforce your rights. If you have a question about property, children or support, they have the answers. It's not too late or too early to get help. Email info@recoveryfamilylaw.ca or visit recoveryfamilylaw.ca and let their team get you excellent results.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
Hello, it's good to be back. Welcome to another packed episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. I'm Michael McCall,
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhammer.
and welcome to another packed and a momentous episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Why is it momentous, I hear you ask? Why is it momentous, Michael? Is it because the Whitecaps extended their lead at the top of the West and are Supporter Shield leaders? No. They kind of shat the bed in that one. It would have been nice to say that that was why it was momentous, but sadly it isn't. We're going to talk, though, Whitecaps LA in this first part of the podcast. Is it because Vancouver FC are top of the league, hello? Well, yes, they are top of the CPL standings. We're going to talk about that in part 2 of the podcast. But that is not why it's a momentous show. Is it because Dick Watch extended to 10 games under Dick Campbell? No, because even worse than the Whitecaps against LA, East Fife got beat 4-1 at home to Bonnyrigg Rose and have basically fucked up their chances of getting into the promotion spots now, so it looks like the season's over there. So, why is it momentous? Well, this is the first AFTN Soccer Show that I bring to you
Oh, no.
as a Canadian.
Oh, that part.
Yes, I am now one of you. After all these years of being here, finally got round to apply for my citizenship, because when you're 55, you don't have to do the written test. So any excuse for an easy life. Had my citizenship ceremony on Tuesday, so I celebrated it in the most Canadian way I could think of, Zach. What do you think that would be?
Poutine and maple donuts.
Close. I watched the Canadian women's national team lose to the US.
Oh, yeah, of course.
What could be more Canadian?
In a shootout, right?
In a shootout. And now, as a Canadian, I can criticise the team. I feel.
Because you didn't before?
Well, now I can officially do it, not as a neutral, but as a concerned citizen.
A concerned citizen, yeah.
Yes. Looking forward to getting to vote in my first elections. All the perks that come with being Canadian.
I thought you were going to say something else, but we'll talk about it later.
They're going to deliver a drip full of maple syrup, I understand. I've filled my paperwork in for that. And I have to stop going to independent artisan coffee shops now. I believe I have to just go to Tim Hortons.
Oh, yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that is going to be unfortunate. Although, I actually did go into 2 Tim Hortons on my way home from Langley tonight, trying to get a caramelised onion and parmesan pinwheel that they keep advertising. And they say, baked fresh throughout the day. Not the 2 fucking shops I went to where they were out.
It's crazy. There's often many times where family members have gone to Tim Hortons and they like the one thing they go for they don't have, whether it's a sandwich or a donut or a certain beverage or whatever, that they're always out.
I mean, I'm trying to support the CPL sponsors, but they let me down, so I just walked straight back out. But that was my week. How was your week, Zach? I know you were very busy today, and I'm amazed you are still awake. We're recording earlier tonight, 10:27. It currently reads on Sunday evening. Yeah. You had a big fundraiser today as you are sending kids to Costa Rica.
Yeah,
the UK government's trying to do that with some migrants just now. I saw the headline in the Sunday Times today.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so you were raising money to send them there.
Send them there. I'm going there.
Well, yeah, but they're going as well.
Yeah.
And I believe if you don't meet your fundraising threshold, you don't have enough money to bring them back. So everyone chip in. Get in touch with Zach if you want to donate to his fundraising.
No, we had a really good day. I actually don't even know the final number yet, but because it was kind of 2 phases to what we were doing today. But the first phase was really, really good, really, really helpful.
Excellent. I obviously haven't donated because I don't like kids, but yeah, good luck to you. And I'm sure Costa Rica will be lovely in August.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm hoping I get to reconnect with some people.
Yeah. I guess folk don't really want to hear about how our week's been, although they should, because it's been fascinating weeks for both of us. We're going to get into the football chat, and we're going to kick things off in this part, talking MLS, talking Whitecaps, and talking disappointment. Because all our cock-a-hoopness from a week ago, I mean, the Whitecaps, it felt we were out of this world. Almost, you could say, in a different galaxy. Unfortunately, the real galaxy sent them crashing back down to Earth like a Challenger space shuttle. And I'm not saying this was a huge disaster. It's a long season. It's one game in a long season. But it wasn't a great performance out there, as I kind of noted during the first half. Watching the first half in particular, maybe the first hour, it felt, once again, that I was watching the Whitecaps as the away team at BC Place, as they just allowed LA Galaxy to have so much of the ball. At one point, I checked the stats 25 minutes in, and the Whitecaps were at 24.8% possession. Sam Rowan from the third sub checked a few minutes later, and they dipped down to 21%.
Yeah, but that's obviously shaded by the result, right? Like, because you're someone who wouldn't care.
Oh yeah,
right?
If we'd got away with a 2-1 victory, I could not give a toss about that.
Yeah,
but they didn't. So now I'm going to criticise every aspect. That's my job. Everyone's got a job in football. My job is to criticise Zach. Brian White's job is to score goals.
Yeah, and he did that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, he scored a goal.
Yes, he did.
He had some very good opportunities to score more than one. I felt. Yeah, it was one of those times where I felt a little bit bad for him. I know you and I talked about this a bunch, but like it was one of those moments where, I mean, the one that for me stands out is the one where he's kind of is alone with the keeper, and just his first touch draws the ball back towards the keeper, as opposed to, just nestling there for him to tap into an empty net from whatever, just inside the box or the top of the box or whatever.
But before we started recording, I watched the goals and some of the key moments back, and I think one thing I want to say straight off the bat is John McCarthy was excellent in goal for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And for me, he was the man of the match. maybe Ricky Puig, but we'll come to that. But
Oh
I
yeah, oh yeah,
thought
actually,
I
yeah.
thought my paint still's got a good thing in there. That would be your 3-2-1, those three in some order if you were doing a 3-2-1 vote for the overall man of the match. But I thought McCarthy was excellent.
Yeah.
And I was so tired after the game because I've had another 4 games in 48 hours weekend. So
Another
I,
Doha.
oh, I didn't do the post game this week. I just needed to go home and get some rest. But as I was walking back over the bridge to my car, I was like, damn it, I should have gone and spoke to John McCarthy because that would have been an interesting chat just about crossing the divide. Not quite Rangers Celtic, but a lot
Yeah.
of
Oh
animosity
yeah,
there.
yeah. Totally.
But crossing that LA divide and just having the season he's having and just how it's been. I mean, of all the former LAFC goalkeepers, he had the better weekend. We'll come to
Yeah,
that
we'll come to that. Yeah.
in a little bit
I
as
saw
well.
that. I saw that.
Yeah. Oh, the joy in Whitecaps. I mean, that tempered any defeat, I think, for some people. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, Max Kripal got sent off. But we'll come to that. But I'm sounding like a curmudgeonly Canadian, Zach.
Oh my.
I like my alliteration. But I know it's going to sound like I'm piling on Brian White. And we've joked, but with real meaning behind it, that White does often need 4 or 5 chances before he pots one away. That is why Brian White is playing in MLS. That is why he's with the Whitecaps. And that's why he's not an MLS, US national team regular.
Yeah.
And it's just what it is. He scores. He's great. He's had his best ever seasons in a Whitecaps jersey. I think he's fantastic when he's fantastic. But when he has some games like this, it has you pulling your hair out. I mean, he's only been here 3 seasons, and look at me.
Which is, yeah, he's not unlike most strikers, right? Sometimes it gets patchy, but he'll score in bunches or whatever. But it's in one light, it's in one sense, Michael, it's also hard to criticize him because he is like he was
Yeah.
the guy who actually did score a goal, like
Yeah.
and was a threat.
And he wasn't the only one that missed some chances,
No,
as we saw in the tail end of the game, where Krylak had a couple of good ones he could have easily put away. I do feel that it's partly because he came on so late and maybe hadn't fully warmed up, but I'm maybe just making excuses for him because I like the guy. I do like Brian White as well, I do want to say. I mean, if we look at the start of the game, LA came out looking the hungrier, and although they had all this possession, they didn't actually do that much with it, and they didn't really threaten the Whitecaps too much. Gabriel Peck had a chance 9 minutes in with Takaoka making a dive and save. And then what I think was a big turning point in the game came in the 15th minute. Fafa Pico.
yeah, that's a huge moment.
Yeah, Vanny said afterwards, his studs seemed to catch in the turf. The BC turf monster strikes again. He twisted, and as he twisted, he felt a back spasm. Now, as you know, as some regular listeners might know, I've had back issues for over a decade. And when your back goes, it is just
It's a horrible
awful.
thing.
So it looks like he's going to get scans just to see how bad it is. Hopefully, it's not too bad. The most recent flare-up I had was just before I went back to Scotland, and I was really worried because I was going back to Scotland, and I had it for close to 2 weeks before it started having a little bit freer movement. But even after that, like, because I've had this for so long, I just have to run just a little bit and my back really starts to hurt. So fingers crossed this is just a very small tweak for Fafa, because he has been so pivotal to the Whitecaps' success in the early part of the season.
Yeah. You know, really, I mean, as I was watching, was able to, with all the stuff happening on my weekend, I was able to actually watch the first half live. It was nice. It was on TSN this
Yeah,
week,
it was nice they picked
which
that
was
one.
nice. So I got to watch the first half live, and when that happened, I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, this is, yeah, concerning on not just this game, but the
future games
the
coming up.
next few games as a whole, because he's been such the bright spot, spark plug, for them.
It seemed to suck something out the Caps, because like him on one side, Ali on the other, could easily have caused problems for that Galaxy defence. Ali didn't have his best game of the season so far either. Bringing Pedro Vite on for Fafa also changed things up a little bit. Now, what I will say though is at training this week, the Whitecaps practiced with two different 11s. So the team that started the first half was one of the 11s. And interestingly, the team that started the second half was the other 11 that they had worked with. So I don't know if the thinking at half-time was, well, we've already got Pedro on, so I'll maybe just take Ryan off now and put Sam on. Because I think Sam probably came on earlier than what the initial plan was. I would have imagined the first team that we saw out would be on for about maybe an hour, 65 minutes, and then maybe the switches of Pedro and Sam coming on. So because Pedro was on earlier, I don't know if that forced Sam on earlier or not, but they did look a much different team in the second half. And jumping ahead a little bit, when it got tied up at 1-1, and I was talking to you about this today, I felt at that point the only team that was going to go on and win the game was the Whitecaps. And then within 5 minutes, it was basically game over. And not in the Whitecaps' favour. It was just very interesting how all that played out. White had two good chances in the first half. 28th minute, Gold plays him through. He's running in on goal, takes a shot from the edge of the box, and it just misses the far post, the left post. And McCarthy was clearly very confident that was going wide, because he just stood there with his arm up. Now, obviously, keepers are going to get a way better view from that, but it's like, that did not miss by much.
No.
And although I feel White should be burying those chances, that's when you see the top strikers around the world can put it either side of the post. It's the fine margins. It's just the width of the post one way or the other. I think he should have buried it, but I can actually let him off a little bit for that one.
Yeah, that wasn't the worst miss for sure.
No. 5 minutes later, good ball comes in. White rises for the header, which threatened the corner flag more than the back of the net.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple of early Galaxy chances to end the half, but I mean, you got in 0-0, and I was like, that could have been a lot worse because they'd given up so much possession. That said, though, although it's not pretty to watch, especially at home, and Vanny talked post-game about this as well, they showed excellent defensive structure. They stuck to what they were tasked to do. They kept the Galaxy at bay, and they didn't really look under too much threat. Where it all fell apart was then when they got a little bit too excited because they got back on level terms.
Yeah, and that's fair. And again, like you said at the very beginning of us talking about this match, it doesn't matter that they were playing at home, and you want to entertain more and look a little bit better. I had no problems with the actual approach from Vanny of being like, okay, LA is going to come out as strong. They have some offensive type players that the Vancouver hasn't seen this year, right? That the Whitecaps haven't played against this year, and so whether you want to say that was cautious or defensive or whatever, I think Vanny was actually kind of wise to do that. But you're right.
If you go toe to toe with that LA side, you're going to get ripped apart.
Yeah, because they have some
Peck, Paintsel, Ricky Puig, Joveljic, that as an attacking four is terrifying.
Oh yeah,
and we saw them all combine for the goals that were to come as well. I mean, we talked about the turning point with Fafa. The other turning point, 55th minute, Brian White played in on goal. For me, he needs to dink that, chip it over the keeper. instead of trying to just keep it on the ground and go past the keeper. But McCarthy did well with the save.
Yeah, but that's the one we were talking about earlier about with his control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he controls that well normally, or like he usually would, I think things are wide open and he just like taps it in. Or you could argue, why didn't he kind of open to, like, maybe hit it towards towards goal? But whatever. Yeah, it was what it was.
But they were punished because within a minute, LA get the ball, go up the pitch, quick move, and it's 1-0. And it was a nice goal. It came after that mess. Ricky Puig plays the ball out to Gabriel Peck. And I think when you watch it back, the Whitecaps clearly thought it was going to be a through ball to Paintsill, because the player, which I think was Blackman, that should have been nearest Peck, gets drawn into the middle because it looked like the two of them were going to try and cut out Paintsill. But then it comes to Peck, he's wide open, and then he just plays the shot. It's like saved by Takaoka, and of all the places that you go, right to Joveljic, wide open in front of goal, and he's not going to get an easier goal than that this year.
The former Eintracht Frankfurt man, who never played for Eintracht.
Did he not?
I don't think he played games for them, but I think he was always like out on loan or something.
That's a German football chat for the show done. I'll tick that off for those on the bingo card. There'll be no more of that.
I don't think it is, Michael. I don't think it is, Michael.
Oh no, something's obviously happened. Oh, did you get your jersey through?
You're horrible. You're so horrible.
Do you know, I actually have a soundbite of you saying that from an earlier show that I cut out.
Where I said you're so horrible?
Yeah. Your exact words are, "You're horrible. You're so horrible." And I've kept that as a nice soundbite. Yeah. Because I thought I'll use that at some point. You've just said it again. Probably on this topic, yeah. So, yeah, it's 1-0 to LA, and you think the writing's on the wall. But fair play to the Whitecaps here, because after that, they were the far better team for a 20, 25-minute spell. Probably 20-minute spell, because they equalised 20 minutes later. And they had chance after chance after chance. McCarthy was just in fine form, keeping out White, keeping out Schopf. There was some scrambles in the box. Ali Ahmed had a nice cut inside and a shot that was blocked. And you felt an equaliser was coming.
That reshuffle that you talked about, that reshuffling that you talked about was interesting for Schopf, because I felt he was much better on the inside.
Yeah, when he got moved into and he had a good game last week as the wing back, but as soon as he got moved into the middle when Sam came on, he was like really good. I thought he had another excellent half.
Yeah, he unfortunately did have, I think, a role to play in one of the other goals, but yeah.
There's a lot of blame to go around for some of the goals. But the equaliser came in the 77th minute. Gold corner. White rises, superbly heads it home. The most difficult of all the chances he had all afternoon, and he finishes with a plum.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice. The interesting thing to me about it was because, like I said, I watched the first half live, and then I had to deal with a bunch of stuff for this fundraiser. Then I had to go back and I watched the second half, even though at some point it got spoiled for me by some messaging or something. But I was like, no, it was an interesting game, so I wanted to watch it anyways. But there was like this, as Vancouver was pressing to try and equalize. There was kind of this long spell. I can't remember if it was a corner before that or it was a set play before that, where like Vancouver kept possession, and so like all the center backs were still in the box, and then it was a ball from Sam into Ranko, and Ranko tried to play a ball across that led to ultimately to the corner that the Whitecaps got their goal from. But it was just like it was just a couple it wasn't a short sustained set of it was like almost like a minute or 2 or 3 minutes where like all three center backs were like at the edge or in the LA box waiting for a cross to come in, because they're like, yeah, we got to get back in this. We got to score. And not indirectly a goal came from all that, and it was the traditional combo of goal to White, and um yeah, it felt like, I think it felt like, it felt like be, be, when I went in the stadium again. I knew the result at that time, but it felt like in the stadium, like, hey, we're gonna get back into this.
Yeah.
We're gonna win this.
I genuinely thought that. And like you look at White, three times through and goal, each time, well, twice denied by McCarthy, once denied by putting it wide of the post. And then his most difficult chance, and he takes it. But you know he's a streaky player, and you know he thrives on confidence, and you're like, okay, he's got that goal now. He's maybe put those demons to bed. I wouldn't be surprised if he pops a second here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally.
But again, absolute credit to the Galaxy. They did what they needed to do. 2 goals in a 2-minute spell, and 5 minutes after tying it up, it was 3-1. 80th minute, it gets to 2-1. Joseph Paintsil, who was outstanding, we'll come to him in a sec, brilliantly times his run to get onto a Ricky Puig pass. And there's been a lot of debate online about where the fault may lie in this. Some folk blaming Sam, some folk blaming Ranko, some folk blaming both. I think you've got to give a lot of credit to the pass from Ricky Puig that was just pinpoint, and Paintsil's pace. That's a lot of P's. There's going to be some pops, I think, in the edit. But Paintsil's pace to just leave Sam in his wake to get onto that was excellent as well. Now, I look at it, and yesterday when I saw it, I was putting the blame on Ranko because I thought he's been too deep. The other 3 players that's back are all up in line, and if Ranko had been in line with them, I think I'd have freeze framed it, looked at the turf. I think Paintsil would just have been off. Whether VAR would have given that would be interesting because it was very tight.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about offside and MLS later when we discuss one of the other incidents from the weekend. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that Ranko was playing him on, and had they been up, he would have been off.
So I don't blame Sam for that aspect of the goal, but he was burned. And it's like he didn't really know that Paintsil was behind him and had got past him. That's kind of how it felt. But again, Manuel Veth actually asked one of the LA Galaxy comm staff that was there, have they measured how fast Paintsil is? Because obviously there was a lot of stuff came out this week that Canadian Moises Bombito is the fastest player in MLS right now. Paintsil, they said they haven't measured him. But on the basis of this game, he's got to be up there, speed-wise, as one of the fastest in it. But that's 2-1. 2 minutes later, it's 3-1. Diego Fagundes, Puig, again, Ricky Puig, out to Paintsil. Somewhat fortunate deflection off the Whitecaps defender. It could have gone anywhere. It comes straight into the path of Fagundes, and much like the first goal, an easy finish for him. And it's, despite a late hurrah from the Whitecaps, a couple of chances for Krylak, it was game over. And it just felt, after the high of last week, and I think maybe everyone got a bit carried away. I did, I'll be honest.
Yeah, but it was
deflating.
Yeah, I agree with that. It probably felt deflating, but I think like the high that people have been on is like not an undeserved high.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't pie in the sky high. It was like there was good reason to be so high, and in fact, you could have looked at the schedule and the results and thought, oh, we could even, the Whitecaps could be even higher standings,
well,
or
yeah,
have more points. Yeah, I hear you that it was kind of a deflating kind of loss to have, but you hope that Vanny will learn from this, right? Because I think there's maybe some, especially from that last 15 minutes, that he can that he and the players can learn how to better manage a game, because that didn't need to be a loss, I don't think, despite LA's quality and despite the attacking options they have, and despite me still thinking that their kit is really horrendous.
The Galaxy kit.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
I keep thinking it's the Timbers.
Yeah, totally.
It's so confusing.
So ugly, that one. I know it's one from last year, but new last year. But
I listened to Vanny's post game on the radio driving home, and that's like the saddest, the lowest I've heard Vanny for a while. He kind of he felt it was like just 5 minutes, a moment of madness that had come in because they had just got like hysteria almost. They had just got carried away with equalising, and everything they had been told to do, everything they'd practiced, everything that it's like this is how we want to play, went out the window, and they just forgot about everything. That is kind of fair, I think. I do want to give the Galaxy a lot of credit though. McCarthy, as I said, really impressed. Joseph Paintsil is outstanding. Now, in our sort of preview, I was kind of questioning 9 million. It's a lot of money for the Ghanaian international. Just it seemed a lot. They're reaping the rewards.
oh yeah, and see, that's like an example of how the Galaxy have tried to remedy the situation within their squad from last year, and so far it seems to be paying off.
Yeah.
And that's the not maybe not the qualities or the characteristics that he has, or maybe not a fit for a Whitecap side, but I think that, or even let's say half that or 2/3 that is the type of player that I think a lot of people would like to see the Whitecaps bring in.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see us bring in a Ricky Puig.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What did he cost? I can't remember what he cost.
Oh, I don't know. I'll have a quick look about that. But I thought, like Ricky Puig yesterday, again, I mean, he's been good for a while. He was good last year in the brief time that we saw him in the league, and in a pretty poor Galaxy side as well, it has to be said. But he has just gone up a level this season, and they're playing nice football. And I've got to say as well, I think Greg Vanney, I've been critical of Greg Vanney over the years, but I think he got his tactics spot on yesterday. He really knew how to put his team out there to deal with the zonal defence and to deal with what space he was going to be allowed on the pitch. And I just think he did everything perfectly.
And I know there's a lot of, Vanny hate because of, he was at TFC or whatever, but I do think in this league that he is a quality manager.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, getting his tactics right or knowing what he needs to do.
I just checked. Ricky Puig was a transfer fee that would be very appealing to the Whitecaps.
It was free?
It was free.
Yeah.
Free transfer, 3.5-year contract, signed on a TAM deal.
He's still a TAM player? Wow, that's crazy.
Well, that's when he was signed. I don't know if he's gone up this year or not.
How old is he?
Let me get that back up.
He's
just 24.
He's a Barcelona kid, right?
Yeah, he came through Barcelona's youth academy, played with their second team, and then made 42 appearances with the first team. 2 goals for Barcelona in La Liga and other competitions. 12 and 45 for the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been capped by Catalonia, which I like.
Yeah.
Big fan of that. But, the Galaxy deserve a lot of credit. Whitecaps-wise, not a ton of positives, I think, to take out of that. I feel it shows they maybe need another creative midfielder. And there was a lot of internet chatter, Twitter chatter back and forth about Pedro Viti. And it's like he's maybe not quite taken that step that we need him to take or we want him to take. And we keep thinking he's going to. And then he just maybe doesn't push on the way that we want. So I think another midfielder would help. Although I was talking last week about the back three and how the 5 guys that can play in amongst there, that they're excellent. I do think sometimes when we come out come up against fast players, there's not a lot of pace there. And maybe a more athletic centre-back for some of those games might be the answer. Now, Bjorn Inga Utvik might be that guy, but he was out with an injury, sadly, this week. I think that's going to be an interesting battle between Utvik and Blackman. Maybe even Laborda, but Laborda's had such a strong start to the season. But I think Utvik and Blackman are battling it out for that third spot. And I don't know where that's leaving Javaine Brown right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Wasn't called up by Jamaica the last time out as well, so he's clearly wanting to be playing so that he can put himself in that mix.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think Udvik has been for me a little bit surprising in terms of the impact and Vandy's willingness to go to him.
Like and he was a leader at his former team. He was the captain for a couple of seasons with his team over there. So you're adding that as well. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Should they be looking to bring in another forward? I don't know if you saw the rumours, and Axel was asked about this at their weekly press conference, but he won't talk about what has not been confirmed. But it looks like they're going to be making changes in the summer where clubs can either have 3 full designated players and 3 under 22 players, or they can have 2 designated players, 4 under 22 players, and they'll get $2 million in GAM as well.
Wow.
Now
that is interesting.
I think the latter is going to appeal more to the Whitecaps because you want to try and get some young talent that you're bringing through. If they can get the perfect third DP, the real difference maker, surely you'd want to go with that.
You'd hope, right?
But you can also do a lot with $2 million in GAM in terms of like trades within the league, and if you can get some quality under 21 talent from South America that we see light it up, or wherever in the world. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Whitecaps use that, what way they want to go, and if they go either way. I mean, you hope if that comes up in the summer, they're going to go one of the 2 ways and not just say, no, we're fine with what we've got. Because as we keep talking about, you just know that these other teams are going to strengthen.
Yeah.
But the loss wasn't the end of the world. The Caps did drop to second in the West, but 2 points behind the Galaxy. They still have a game in hand, so they could easily go back up to the top. In terms of the Supporters' Shield standings, where last week they were top of the table in points per game. They've dropped down to 4th, but there's very little to kind of choose in that. Actually, they're 3rd in points per game, 1.88 the Galaxy lead, New York's 1.88, and we're 1.86, alongside Houston and Philadelphia. I know I'm just getting way ahead. It's still very early in the season, but I felt deflated last night coming home. Today, fresh light of day, felt a little bit more optimistic by telling myself, look, it's one game. They've only played 7. They've got a whole other 27 to go. It's a long, long season. Just dust yourselves down, get on with it. You've got Seattle next week. And now that's going to be a tough one. Seattle came away with a 0-0 draw yesterday against Dallas, having got their first win of the season last week.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough down there. If the Whitecaps play the way that we've seen them play in their away games so far, then they can certainly go down the I-5 and give Seattle more than a game and come away with it 1.3 points. If they play like they did yesterday, very defensive, Seattle's got the players, though, that can punish them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Like on Whitecaps away form, they should totally be like going there expecting 3 points, or going there, vying for 3 points. However, it's a derby, and we know that in matches like this, the form can often go out the window. And so, what's been a very poor performing Seattle Sounders side could raise their game for this and continue to collect points in what will be, I think, a really interesting match.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I can't get down for it. I'm quite gutted by that.
It's a Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's the Saturday.
Yeah.
The reason I can't go down is being a Canadian citizen now. Did I mention that?
Yes.
I have to, during your citizenship ceremony, you have to cut up your permanent residency card, which means if I leave the country, I can't get back into it.
Yeah.
So
you should go. I'm totally joking, Mike.
You're not. You mean that?
I'm totally no.
It's the Zach coup of AFTN.
No, I'm just joking. And I would have loved to have gone down for you to Seattle, but I'm busy that one.
Oh, sorry, I knocked my headphones out there. I didn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, sorry. I would have loved to have gone down for you, but I too have a thing happening next weekend.
Well, I've applied for my passport now, so it should come through in time for the game next month. That I may not be able to get down to because of League One commentary. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Oh,
but
right.
it should be a good game. It should be a good occasion, and I just hope they don't play too defensive in it, and they kind of make it a good game. And if they can get something out of that, I think that will steady the ship, get some of the fans' confidence a little bit back into it as well. But certainly a lot to play for in that regard. If we have a little look around the rest of the results in MLS West this weekend, it started off with the early kickoff on Saturday. Portland 2, LAFC 2, and what a interesting game this one. Portland were looking good in it, and they took the lead. They were pegged back. They retook the lead. 2-1 at half-time, and then 3 minutes into the second half, Max Crepeau got sent off for a tackle that was borderline inside-outside the box. In the end, it was given to being outside the box.
Yeah, it was. Now,
yeah.
Can we talk about one element of this here?
Sure.
Okay. I've watched it a few times with the commentary off when I was watching it. It looked like he was Boenga or whatever. It was offside.
Yes. Aha. I thought that as well, and no one has mentioned that.
I don't understand how it's a red card. It's the play is offside in my opinion, and that's why I said in the last game with I can't remember, we were talking about the Ranko Sam thing, I think it was, but to me there's no foul because of the offside, and it's a very clear offside, what appears to be a very clear offside, and again this is where, coming from a Bundesliga perspective, I think MLS should have that line technology, the good line technology, not the bad that's used other places, but the good line technology that makes it very obvious, or the FIFA, the World Cup kind of Euro technology where it's very clear. They show you the guy's whatever sleeve is offside or whatever it is. You see they make that fake wall line thing.
Yeah.
One of those two models really needs to be adopted, but I don't understand how VAR was not looking at that and saying, "Oh, yeah, he's offside, so therefore there's no foul."
We should have had a chat about this so that I could have maybe asked Darnell or somebody what their thoughts on it were. But I'm sure he'll let me know on Twitter. The only thing I could think of was, because the linesman hadn't given it, maybe MLS don't go back to that, and there's only certain things that they're looking at with VAR.
But it's.
But I thought, am I going crazy here? I totally forgotten about that till you mentioned it, because I was watching it and I put it back and I froze it and I was like, he's offside. And I was like,
he was offside in my opinion.
No one mentioned it, and I was like, there must be something I'm missing here. And then I just moved on from it. But yeah, it was not the return match against his former team that Max Crepeau wanted.
No,
to put it mildly.
Well, and then to make,
I don't know what he was complaining about, because it was a clear sending off offence.
Yeah, and to make it even worse,
well, Pentemis comes on, his first touch of the ball is to pick it out of the back of the net.
Exactly.
It was funny because I was watching it and I was like, oh, if they score here, that's going to be hilarious. And then they did. credit to the Timbers, they saw the match out and they got what was a crucial point. I'd watched the first half live and then I was heading out to Provincial Cup action. And like you with the Whitecaps game, I got the results spoiled because I'm on the Timbers mailing list.
Right.
And it was like 10-man Timbers salvage a point. And I was like, what the hell happened in that second half?
You're like, I got to see this.
Yeah. So as soon as I got home, it was one of the first things I stuck on. But yeah, it was a good point. And basically, the way that everything works right now from a Whitecaps point of view, every draw between Western Conference teams is fantastic from a Whitecaps point of view. So the more, the merrier.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't actually had a chance to see much of the other games, I've got to say. SKC Miami, I've seen bits of. I just think it was amazing that over 72,000 people came out to Arrowhead Stadium to see Johnny Russell come back from injury for 4 minutes. And that just shows you the impact that Johnny has had amongst the KC faithful.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but watch the highlights of this. And I mentioned on last week's show, they need to stop overusing the term Galazzo.
Yeah.
And then someone pointed out on Twitter, do you think Messi's got in his contract that every goal he scores has to be described as a Galazzo? No, and then I saw on the MLS site, it was like, Inter Miami superstar scores Galazzo, and this is before I'd seen it, and I was like, oh, here we go again. Yeah, I would describe this as a Galazzo. It was a very good strike. But watching it and then seeing all the crowd celebrate a Miami goal at a KC home game, oh, it just breaks my heart. And you just know that is what is potentially in store at BC Place in May.
Yep.
I genuinely, I hate to see it. And I know folk are there to see Messi, and you saw the reactions in the crowd, and folk were like, wow. And the excitement of people that not only had they seen Messi, but they saw him score a fantastic goal. I feel bad for saying what I said, because they were genuinely excited, and it's a moment that will live in their memories for the longest time. I just hate to see it.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah.
But, I mean, KC gave them a good run for their money, and Miami, I mean, they've hit top of the East. I don't think they've fully hit their stride yet as to how well they can play. Who knows what's going to happen here in May? Will Messi turn up? Will we play? Will we be on the bench and come on as a sub? But I watched them get absolutely destroyed midweek by Monterrey in the Champions Cup. And it shows. Oh, and Suarez was up to his usual dirty tricks as well. There were a free kick came in and he had the Monterrey guy's arm trapped under his arm and then turned sideways and basically wrenched the guy's arm almost out of his socket. And he got away with it.
At least he didn't bite him, Michael.
No. Maybe we could get some kind of special dental sponsorship for that show. But yeah, that is going to be a good game. It would have been nice if the Whitecaps' home form didn't suck as much. Actually, just touching on that, listening to the pre-game show, Asa and Colin had a guy on from the Corner of the Galaxy podcast. And they had said, oh, we were listening to your show and you said that the Whitecaps' position at the top of the West, it doesn't relate to reality. I can't think of the word, it's annoying me. But basically because they've had so many games at home. And I was listening to it going, yeah, but they dropped a point in the first game and they lost their second game. And now they've dropped 8 points from their 5 home games. So it's not that BC Place is a fortress. They're at the top of the tables because they went and got 2 road wins. So it's not an inflated figure that they were at the top of the West. They're at the top of the West because they deserve to be at the top of the West.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, ran over. And back to the MLS stats. Minnesota lost to Houston 2-1. Haven't seen any of this. I don't know.
I haven't seen that one either.
RSL drew 0-0 with Columbus, so great. Another couple of points dropped. Colorado are starting to hit the Colorado that I thought they might be in a 3-0 win at San Jose. San Jose,
They're dreadful.
they are. I thought they might have a little bit more fight in them, but they've been terrible. And then today, I just fast forwarded through this when I got home from the game tonight. St. Louis beat Austin 1-0.
Same. Was it Santa Claus got that goal, right?
Yeah, scrappy goal, but that basically leaves the Western Conference. LA on top, 15 points from 8 games. Whitecaps second, 13 from 7. Houston third, 13 from 7. Salt Lake 12 from 8. Colorado climbing now, 12 from 8. LAFC 11 from 8. Minnesota 11 from 7. St. Louis 11 from 8. Kansas 10 from 8. And then below the playoff line, Portland, Austin, Seattle, Dallas, and bringing up the rear, San Jose on 3 points. Anything else from MLS that you want to talk about from this week?
No, I just want to say that because I was talking to someone from the Whitecaps, the Whitecaps community tonight. Not a supporter, not a fan, but someone.
Oh, I know who that might have been. Okay,
Yeah, you probably do because you probably saw them as well. But no, I and as I was talking about, I genuinely said, look, like, yeah, as disappointing or deflating or whatever as the dropping the points at home to the Galaxy was, I still think that this team playing at their best can take points and can cause problems for like any team right now.
yeah,
And so I think that whatever discouragement or frustration there is, I think it needs to be tempered a little bit. And yeah, I think that as many people as possible need to get in their vehicles and drive down to Seattle and go and be a part of that because those games are always memorable. Even the ones that are painful or have been painful are memorable. And if you're able to, if you have the means, you should really get out and go and support and be a part of that game and be a part of the away day experience, which is, one of the things that makes football so beautiful.
yeah. And the other thing that makes football so beautiful, and I need to remind myself this a lot more often, is like, don't get too high at the highs and don't get too low at the lows. And
Totally.
it is like, if we'd recorded this last night, because I'd said to you, when do you want to record? I thought we could maybe do a bit last night. But if I had, I would have been so down. But now, 24 hours, clearer head, and it's like, it is one game. And there was flashes there. And it was just the 5-minute moments of madness that cost them points in this game. And as you say, they can go toe-to-toe. The West is wide open this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's up for grabs, and the more points they can get on the board early, and if they can keep up this away form, because they've got a couple of away games coming up now.
Yeah, so don't lose heart. If you're a Whitecaps fan, don't lose heart. Also, we didn't talk about it, I don't think, but 25,000 again in attendance. Attendance looked good, and again, the result.
Oh, yeah,
but I think it was another great night out of the stadium. So, yeah, lots of positives.
To quote AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm, chin up, tits out, watch out for this shoe.
Okay, I don't know anything about that. Can I ask you a question about a Whitecaps question?
Yeah. I don't know why you always say, can I ask you? Just ask me.
I'm sorry. You might want to splice this in somewhere else, or this might not. What did you think about? So obviously, this one of the things in Whitecaps world this week was the whole, hey, single match tickets are now available for the Inter Miami match. So there's I haven't clicked any of the links, but I saw some people saying, oh yeah, it's like $400 a ticket or whatever. So I don't know what section that's in. But aside from that, the thing to me that was more interesting that I wanted to hear your thoughts on was the
I know what you're going to say. Yeah,
the season tickets being capped at 16,000. Did I miss something? Was there been any explanation or rationale given for that?
Actually, no, because we talked a little bit about the fact that they had sold out when Axel had his midweek press conference, but that wasn't something that we asked as to why they had it at that number. Actually, that's a fair point,
because obviously you wanna have room for walk-ups. You want to have, they wanted to do these match packs.
Yeah, because there is a lot of the different match packs available as well.
But the only thing is, I would have thought like the lower bowl holds 27 and 16 just seems quite a bit low, like lower than I thought.
Maybe 16 and a half, but yeah, it's like potato. That's a fair point. I'll ask about that.
No, but yeah,
should make note of that though. It's like this is the first time that they've ever sold out of all their season tickets. So yeah, there is the Messi effect that you can't get away from that. What's going to be interesting is to see retention next year. So they've done a great job. Everyone has done such a good job in rebuilding the club and rebuilding what people think about the club. And a lot of it is how things go on the pitch as well. But just kudos, well done to everyone involved in that. It's great to see. It's great to see these big crowds as well. This is like I think the 8th straight crowd going back to last year over 20,000. And it's the 3rd in a row now over 24,000.
Yeah. It was in the early days of MLS was it 15,000 that was the most season tickets?
I think it was.
Season? Yeah.
I have 15 in my head, like in the very first year and stuff.
So another kind of new benchmark, another kind of like high point, another kind of thing to celebrate. And yeah, hopefully, like you said, hopefully move forward, retain, continue to build and grow. And yeah, so kudos to Axel and his team for that. And obviously a big part of what they need to do is continue, like you said, to work. Obviously, with the on-field stuff is a given. You have to work to make that better, but they continue to engage people in meaningful ways in the stadium, which I know is something that they have always been. They always tried to do different things to do that, and obviously they're dealing with, hey, we're a renter here at BC Place, and so they have challenges and there are pros and cons to that or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a good crowd, and I just thought that coming out that we capped it at 16 and that sold out, and yeah. And I also found some of the comments about the $400 tickets quite funny, but
well, I've seen what the prices of the Copa tickets are for like Canada, Argentina, and also what they're going for in the resale market, and it's like 400 seems a snip.
But, which is crazy, Michael. Like I went to a Champions League final, and my face value ticket was like 360 euros. Right?
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But that is it for the Whitecaps chat. That is it for the MLS chat. We're going to turn our attention to Vancouver FC in the CPL in the next part, and we'll be back with that after this week's song from our album of the month.
Hi, I'm Vanni Sartini, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Shave, maybe think things through, or hide behind drink and sleeping. So I dreamt I was alone in the crowd.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca for all your family's legal needs. Go and check them out, Surrey's finest, recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And kicking off this part is this week's song from our album of the month, 1989's Shakespeare Alabama by English band Diesel Park West, and that was one of the singles released from it, one of the standout tracks, Jackie's Still Sad. I'm still sad a little bit after yesterday, but I was buoyed from my sadness by the fantastic win for Vancouver FC on Sunday, kicking off the new CPL season with a victory with 3 points, 4 goals, and they are top the league. Say they are top the league. Fantastic result. We'll get to that very, very shortly. We'll also hear from both head coaches after that one. But just to round up the weekend's CPL action, there was 3 games on Saturday to kick off the new season. Atletico Ottawa came from behind to come away with a 2-1 victory over York United. That was an interesting game, and I think it kind of showed just how dangerous Atletico is going to be this season.
Yeah, and it showed off some of their new players, right? Manny with a goal and an assist. Yeah, it was if I remember, it was a goalless first half.
Yeah, all the goals came in the second.
York took the lead, and then Manny equalized, and then Manny set up. How do you pronounce this guy's name? Twardek, yeah, for a nice finish.
Well, I pronounce it Twardek. I wouldn't go with anything that I pronounce or with what the announcer at Willoughby Stadium goes with the players either, to be fair. That's a whole other thing.
But it was there was moments in the game there where York had taken the lead, and it was kind of like,
Austin Ricci, who I like. I think he's a good front man. Got a goal. Could easily have had a couple more as well. Yep. York had way more shots
York was
in the game
good.
than Ottawa. Yeah, and then they just kind of fell apart.
And in the end, it felt like Atletico's quality rose, to the top.
Yeah, I was hoping York were going to get the win just to keep the points away from Ottawa, because you know that they are going to be strong as the season goes on. Yeah. So if they got off to a losing start, that would have been quite good.
Totally the same. I was hoping for either a York win or a draw would have been really nice.
Talking of coming from behind. Oh, sorry, that was our off-air chat that we had. But also, in a football sense, Forge, in a rematch of last year's championship game, it finished 2-1. This finished 2-1. They beat Cavalry after Cavalry took the lead on the hour mark from Sergio Camargo.
It was a nice near post kind of flick on header from a corner that made its way into the far side netting. It was quite a nice looking goal.
It was, but as I was watching it, and as Camargo ran off to the Forge fans, like with his hands to his ears, I got flashbacks to them doing similar kind of stuff in the championship game, and then it all coming off the rails. Well, and it did in this one.
This game was deja vu to the championship game, and it was, in some sense, it was deja vu to the game that happened hours before it, also in Ontario. The goalless first half. Away side takes the lead.
Away side has more shots.
Yeah, Wayside was kind of.
Although they only got one on target, which was Camargo's goal.
Yeah,
actually, there was only 3 shots on target in this whole game. So
it was
devoid of a bit of quality.
It was a classic kind of Forge Cavalry game where what our friend Phillip would say was very physical.
Yes, I mean, as much as it would be nice for Forge not to win it again, they do have the player in the league that has probably my favourite name, Benny Badibanga.
And he scored.
Yes, he scored the winner. I would just love to be commentating in a game where I could go, Benny Banga with a banger! Which is why I do not do commentary for CPL games. But yeah, that was a little bit of a letdown of a game in that no one got sent off. And I do like a sending off when these two teams meet.
Yeah, that's true.
The third game of the afternoon, settled by the single goal.
Did you see? I've only seen the highlights of this one. Those other games I watch, most of them.
I actually
probably
watched most of this when I got home last night when I was
I
putting all
just
my
watched.
stuff together.
I just watched the highlights of it. It
I
did
was
not.
scouting for hopefully TSS. We'll come to that in the next part.
I did not think it was actually a penalty. I thought it was a little bit harsh on Dunn.
Yeah. You've seen them given, you've seen them not given. When you watch as much football as we do, you're going to say that. But Halifax were dominant in this. 13 shots to 4. But all of Pacific's 4 were on target, whereas only 2 of Halifax's were. And that was the story, really, of the game. It was like wasteful from Halifax. And it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back from that against Vancouver this coming Thursday.
Yeah, well, I mean, they lose to UBC? You told me in preseason.
Yeah, their last pre-season game was a 1-0 loss to UBC, and it wasn't even the full-strength UBC team that was out.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned, even though I like a number of players in the Halifax side, and they're obviously like there's reasons to just to like them in general, but yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about how they're going to get off on how they're going to start, the season with these away games in BC. It's a little bit concerning.
Well, they struggled to take points on the road last year, and then they were so dominant at home, which is what really helped them.
Yeah, I thought Pacific was very underwhelming and fortunate to get the penalty. Saloof obviously was full value for his conversion. To me,
Yeah.
one of the most intriguing things or interesting things in this game, and I only got to see a glimpse of it on the highlight pack I watched, was the relocation of Top and the Lakeside boys.
Yeah,
to the
now
main
I
stand.
didn't know that they'd been relocated. And then I was watching the game and I was like, whoa, that's a pitiful crowd in the supporter section.
But yeah, the crowd didn't
They
look
asked to get
great.
moved, is my understanding.
Probably because, well, why would you? I don't understand how they were. I don't understand how they were where they were for so long. I mean,
Yeah, but I do
you
like
got-
supporters being behind the goal. But when you've got a roof to amplify your noise, you want to be under the roof.
exactly. They even if they were even if they were in the corner where they currently were, but under the roof in that corner, they would be way better off. Now
Yeah.
they have private suites behind them, which maybe would limit the types of flags they could wave or how they could wave them or whatever because of those kind of issues. But it would be better for them vocally and probably visually on the broadcast because that is the one part of where they are now. They're in the new
Yes.
big stand, and you can't really see them, which
Well,
is not the end of the world. But
No, but I was going to mention this anyway about broadcast. It just annoys me so much. Like you're watching the Ottawa game and it's facing the empty
yeah.
stand and it makes it look like there's no one there.
yeah,
And
and
it's
Ottawa
a
has a good
terrible,
attendance.
yeah, it's a terrible look for the league. But I just don't
I saw-
understand how you would not try and find a solution to that.
I saw someone talking about this on like a Voyageurs page or something, or a CPL page, and they just said, "Look, it's what's the group that owns the Fury, the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group. They own the facility and stuff, and supposedly it's them. It's about there's only cameras on that one side. There's only places to put cameras, or only hookups for the cameras, or whatever
I
on
mean,
the
it
one
can't
side.
be that difficult to do so. Like
No, it shouldn't be.
they
Then you're
put
just giving
cameras
people-
out at like League One grounds here
Yeah.
in BC very
You switch-
easily, and
you-
just get scaffolding and like cherry pickers and.
You switch the cameras, or you put the people on the other side. This is
Yeah.
not rocket science, but yeah.
I mean, just from a league's point of view, though, it is not a good look. Like if you're trying to put those highlights around the world,
Yeah.
or if you're on channels around the world, because it's shown in the US, it's shown overseas, and folk are flicking through channels. If you see an empty stand, you're going to think it's just like a crappy game.
Or a replay of a COVID era match.
Yeah. So that I don't get at all. But I mean, Saturday saw 3 wins for the home teams.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be 4 out of 4? Yes. It turned out it was, as Vancouver FC lived up to our hype, or what our hope, as well as hype probably. A bit shaky start, but a dominant performance really against Valour this afternoon. 4-1 victory. They fell behind. Another come from behind victory as the Aussie Jordan Swiebel took the lead in the 24th minute for Valour. Lovely, well-taken goal. Great ball in. He rose so well to meet it between David Norman and Paris G. Didn't give Callum Irving a chance.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, when it went in, I was like, oh.
Well, that's because you remember last year.
Yeah.
Where when goals would go in and heads would drop, and yeah, it was not a place with a lot of comebacks.
You know, that is something that none of us asked Afshin afterwards about, that mindset. How last year they would go behind.
It was asked of Paris G.
Yeah. He wasn't with the club last year.
Yeah, but he talked about it as an away player. He said, "Hey, we knew if we scored here, then we were going to win," kind of thing. It was a good ball, and you're right. It kind of went in that space between the center back and the fullback, which was
Swivel just got goal side of G, which was the issue.
Yeah, which is one of the few errors or shortcomings in G's performance.
Yeah, because he was outstanding. A goal and 1 official assist. But for the first Vancouver goal, he had a big part to play in that as well, because it was his run up the left wing that started everything off. And you wanted to see how they were going to respond. And it was a tremendous response. It was a tremendous performance. I described it afterwards to Afshin Ghotbi as almost perfect, because obviously not keeping the clean sheet, letting that go in it is what they'll feel maybe just let them down. It was a fairly even first half, but I mean, Vancouver did shade it and they got themselves back level. An Aussie scores at one end. Anything an Aussie can do, a Kiwi can do as well. Moses Dyer buries it to a good goal, 45th minute.
Really nice play.
Yeah. It was a well-worked move. Lovely little back heel from Diaz to set it up. And if you haven't seen the highlights of this, go and watch the highlights, because all the goals were really good. The back heel by Diaz to set it up was nice. Dyer still had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And then takes a touch to bring himself outside to make the space to get the shot off and buries it. And he'd had a good chance earlier in the half, which you thought he was going to bury. It was interesting. Afshin said afterwards the ball wasn't inflated enough, or it wasn't heavy enough.
Oh,
and that's what held it up as he hit the shot. But we'll hear from an out of breath Afshin Ghotbi.
Yeah, yes.
We'll tell you that story when we play the audio in a bit. But that had the teams going in level at the half, and I didn't know what to expect in the second half. I don't think I expected what happened.
No, and it was interesting because maybe you'll hear in the Phil Santos audio, I think he said at half they adjusted how they were pressing, and for some reason they gave Paris G a whole bunch of time and space as an inverted fullback to cut onto his stronger foot and just have a go from outside the box.
Yeah,
there's some venom in the strike, but it's the keeper should have it.
I was going to say, as good a strike as it was, when I watched it back when I got home, because I had only seen it live, and I was actually walking around as the goal went in, but I was looking through the holes under the stand, so I just saw it leave G's foot and go in the net, and I hadn't seen the keeper. But when I watched it back, I was like, oh, you want your keeper
Yeah.
do better. They have definitely downgraded in the goalkeeping.
Yeah, because Yesley
Ranks.
went to Ottawa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that is also going to be tough for them. They've got 7 games on the road to start the season. They've got a downgrade in the goalkeeping department, and you're just capitulating in the second half in your first game of the season like this. It was like 2 teams came out with completely different mindsets for the second half. It was 2 minutes in when G got that goal, and a local guy scoring in his first game in Vancouver colours. You love to see it.
Oh, yeah.
And
he went and celebrated with Ghotbi and the whole team. And
because Paris, G mentioned afterwards, we're probably not going to play the Paris audio in this. I might stick some stuff in a extra one during the week because we had a lot of audio that we got, and then there will obviously be a midweek game as well. But Paris spoke afterwards about how the team feels like a family. And I know a lot of teams say that, and we've been around a lot of teams over the years at various levels in football. And there's been some Whitecaps teams that you felt were really close-knit. And there was some where you could tell there was obvious little cliques and groups. Sometimes that spills over on the training pitch, like with David Ousted and Pedro Morales way back in the day. This feels like a Vancouver FC team that is a close-knit group.
I think,
and you saw it with Paris's goal, just the joy in everyone's face, how pleased they were for him.
I think there's 2 significant groups that have overlapped that have really helped bind the group together, Michael. The one is the players who are still there who endured last year. And I think they have a bond, and they have just a sense of the strength with which they finished the season. And then you have in a Venn diagram, a number of 5 of those players.
I love my Venn diagrams.
Yeah, you have 5 of those players with 8 other guys who have BC or BC boys, and so you have this kind of these 13 players in this group who I think they haven't all played with each other, or but they all know of each other and know each other, and so I just think those 2 things kind of working together have helped create that kind of environment. I think that G was reflecting on. But yeah, it's an exciting group. And like you said, for someone like yourself, one of the things that helps you engage or makes you want to engage is these local players that you know of, that you have followed, that you want to see them play in the CPL. You want to see if the CPL will help them progress or develop, or is their level or whatever. And yeah, it just there's so much encouraging signs and excitement about how this is all coming together.
You accidentally calling him P there.
No, I know, PG.
Well, you've just given me an idea for a segment for the show.
Oh no.
PG tips. Do you know what PG tips are?
I don't know. I'm scared to ask.
No, it's a brand of tea in the UK. It's Tetley and PG Tips are the 2 big tea brands in the UK.
I've heard of the Tetley.
Well, see, PG Tips. It hasn't quite made it over here the same way. So I'm thinking we'll get Paris just to give general lifestyle tips in a section called PG Tips.
There you go.
I'm copywriting that if anyone's listening. Philippe, third sub guys. Don't want to see this on One Soccer before I get round to it. Just writing that down in my little notebook. I like to write things down because this is my notes for the game today. It's all handwritten.
Oh, nice.
There's no power in the press box. Well, press tent, shack, whatever you want to call it. So I just, old school, writing my notes down. There was a chat on the Canucks Abroad Discord in the League One thing this week where someone was trying to find stats for the first season of League One BC. And one of the guys had said, I think Goff's got handwritten ones, and shared a picture that I'd put out on Twitter. Because I've got, for the first 2 years of League One BC, all the scorers and stats written down on bits of paper. Nothing's typed up, and the first year stats don't exist anywhere apart from on these bits of paper.
Oh, there you go.
BC Soccer didn't keep them.
That's awkward.
So if I lose these bits of paper, there's a whole season's history gone out the window. But it's going to be obviously in the future BC Soccer Hall of Fame, clearly. When I pass away and leave this mortal coil, that will be my legacy
And
in
we're
the
searching through
BC Soccer Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're searching through all your stuff that you left behind.
And then folk will be looking at it going, I can't read his writing. Which, to be fair, is a genuine problem for myself when I'm commentating on the games and I look at my notes and I can't work out what I've written. And I say that because I'm reading my notes for the second half here and I'm struggling to work out what I've written. Yeah.
Or where are we at? It's 2-1, right?
It's 2-1 just now. So I've got a Ghotbi miss.
Yep.
And then Ghotbi scores 4 minutes later. That's what this means.
Set up by PG.
PG again, yes. Paris cuts it back from the byline to Ghotbi. Again, has some work to do. Takes it well. Good finish. It was a nice volley by Ghotbi. Good to see him get the start, because we did wonder, will he fit into the starting lineup with him being away with Lebanon? Will that have maybe cost him a place initially in the starting lineup? But slot straight in there, looked really good today. And at 3-1, you're thinking, whoa, this has been some turnaround. And then this didn't really have a big impact in that it probably just killed Valour off getting back into it. Sending off in the 56th minute, the kind of sending off that as a visiting fan or a neutral, you kind of love to see. A player gets a second yellow for simulation, red card, and he's off. Jordan Faria was the player. Now, live, and we were talking about this after the game, neither of us had seen the replay. Live, I thought it was a foul and it should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
I watched it back.
There was
no contact from David Norman on him at all.
Yeah. When I watch it back, I totally see. And I also didn't really fully grasp the level of laziness in his first card in the stadium as well. So I watched the highlights tonight when I got home, and I was just like, oh man, that's something that Phil will be highly disappointed. Now it didn't obviously, I don't think didn't turn the game, didn't change the result of the game.
It didn't change the result, but it stopped them getting anything back. Now, if that had been given as a penalty, because obviously no VAR, so players take this risk a little bit more in the CPL and leagues of that ilk, it would have been 3-2 and very much game back on. Now, I give refs a lot of criticism. Alain Rouche was in the perfect position to make that call, and he got it spot on. So full credit to him.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to give him a lot more abuse, Faria, as he walked around to try and get a reaction, because he was like losing it as he went off the pitch. And I thought, if you guys wind him up now.
Oh, do you know what we said to him? We were chanting at him. What were we saying? We were saying, VAR can't save you. VAR can't save you. And then as he was just leaving at the end, I just said, but it probably should have. Because we thought
you thought it was a penalty as well. That was 3-1. They're down to 10 men. The fourth goal came in the 67th minute, and it's another local lad, friend of the show.
Good.
I just want to point out that the 4 guys that scored today are 4 of the guys that we have spoken to with in-depth interviews this season. So that bodes well. If you want to score, chat to AFTN. You get Brian White on. Oh, he does score, but get him on every week. Maybe he'll score more. But David Norman, the 6th, got the goal in the 67th minute. It was another great goal. Vasco Fry sends the corner in. Now, the commentators, when I was watching it back, said that he overhit it. I don't know if he overhit it or if that was meant, because Diaz, immediately as the ball's hit, goes back. But it might just be because he read the path of the ball and he knew that it had been overhit. I like to think that that was a worked move from training.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. But Diaz, leading with assists in the league now with 2 assists, heads it into the danger zone, falls to David Norman Jr., buried. Commentators are like, you're not going to miss from there. That was a hard finish. That was not a gimme at all.
No, not a gimme. But David took it well with his preferred left foot, and it was very, very, very nice to see him hit it on the volley. And So yeah, so happy for him as I was leaving the stadium. As we were driving from the stadium, he was talking to Moses and a couple of people. So we pulled over and stopped, and I got to go over, yeah, wish him well, and yeah, he was off to dinner with his family, and
Nice.
yeah, so I'm so happy. I mean, uh, I have so much time for him.
Yeah, me too. I was so delighted. I'd went to watch the second half. I left the press box and I went behind the goal because I like watching games at pitch level. So I had a great view of that goal. It was like a lovely strike. Delighted for him and 4-1 victory. Could have been more. It was a good all-round team performance. We'll talk about some of the players in a sec. I want to play you some audio now from both head coaches. Phil DeSantis kind of just talking about his team, how it sets his team up for the season. We usually have a chat with Phil before the season starts. Never had a chance to do that this time around. We'll maybe wait until this away stretch is over, as you'll hear he kind of wants to judge how his team is doing after that spell. And we'll hear from Afshin Ghotbi as well, who had to run the full length of Willoughby because he thought the post-game press conference had been moved, so he had to run all the way back, and he was making me short of breath with his first answer, I've got to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's just hear now from Phil DeSantis and Afshin Ghotbi. So, Phil, not the ideal start to the season, a decent first half. How did you see that second half play out? How pivotal do you feel the red card was?
Not pivotal because at the time the red card happened, it was 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. You guys could tell me, you probably had a better view if you watched it on camera. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that. I think two defining moments, because you said it, we didn't get in the game bad. I think that the team started, yes, giving a bit of the ball to the opposition, but I think that we controlled the space as well. There was a double chance from Vancouver off a free kick that there's a lucky bounce, and then they had those two shots back to back. But apart from that, yes, they got a few good positions without creating big chances. But then you can see the goal when they were pushing very close to the end of the first half, and you can see the second one right at the beginning of the second half. So those are defining moments. Those are decisive moments that we need to deal better with. Now you said it, it's very early in the season, and we have to take these lessons and just grow from here.
You've got such a tough start, being on the road for so many games. I know it's completely out of your hands. Jordan said he feels like it's good for the group because it's going to get that team chemistry and going. I mean, how do you view this?
I view that in 7 games. You asked me the question. It all depends on how the team's going to react to it. If we react well, if the guys actually take advantage of the time spent together in the right way, it's not easy. It's not easy, but I think that there's something for us there to try and build, and we're gonna have to do it.
We spent a lot of time rebuilding, developing the squad in the offseason.
Yeah.
There was I think a lot of good things in the first half, 60 minutes where you speak of some of the positives that you took from that first half.
I actually think there was a good 35 minutes. After that, I think that we started to concede a little bit too much space, and I don't know what it was. I just felt that we started to give too much to the opposition. And then again, we have to hold on to the good and try to build from there. I think that's the way we need to go, and it comes fast. It's good to have a game right away on Friday. I think, like you said, there was a few moments and a few spots that you hold on to, and you say, if this is the type of team we're gonna be, it's good. But it's about doing it for 90 minutes. And if 35 could become 70 and 75 very fast, it's a good sign. If not, it's just going to be good moments in a game of 90 minutes.
Almost perfect start. I'm sure you'd like a clean sheet as well, but how did you see that one play out? What was the difference in the second half, do you feel?
I think in the first half, a lot of our local players, they brought their families, friends. Some of them had 50, 100 of their family members here. And I think that puts a little bit of tension. And they were a little bit, in my opinion, stressed, wanting to perform well for their families and friends. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. I was doing high pressure defending all game. So, yeah, and I think that was one of the differences. The other one, I think tactically, we struggled with when we dropped into the middle block. I felt we didn't play with the same intensity and energy to close things down. So we allowed them into the midfield zone. They had time, space to play. I call it wireless defending. That didn't work. And that's how the goal came. They had so much space, time to play the ball behind the defense. And the third part, I thought we struggled with the distance between our midfielders and our strikers. So we made some adjustments by bringing Ben and Gabby inside more. We made an adjustment, sometimes Diaz dropping a little bit between the lines so we can have the connections we needed to play. But most importantly, I think, is that I told them that regardless if they win, lose, or draw, even if they don't perform well, all those family members that came to see them will love them regardless. They're just happy to see them play at the hometown. So let go of that pressure. Just play, be yourself. Well, we do everything in training. Just show that, and I think then we can have a much better game. And sometimes just a small change in thinking and attitude creates different feeling. Different feeling is different action. And then when the action is rewarded with this beautiful goal from Paris, then all of a sudden everything comes easier. And then immediately Gabi has a chance. Then the third goal, then the red card. It's life. I've always talked about. It's like grapes. It comes in bunches. Good things in bunches, bad things in bunches. And last year we had a lot of bad things in bunches. And today to be able to score 4 goals, and maybe we could have many more, sets a very, I think, a sense of confidence going forward that we're capable of even playing much better football. And I'm really very thankful from the ownership to the technical staff, front office, everyone, Ms. White. There was such a unity all through the offseason, into the new season, and the product of it is a result like today. So it didn't happen by an accident. It happened by sequences of many, many great things on and off the field.
Paris talked about how it's like family, just now, and because so many of these players know each other, you saw it in that second half, the chemistry that's there with a lot of them, and when the team's confident, they're playing with a certain swagger. You've got such a stacked roster though right now, and you've just gone out and you've had a dominant. How do you keep everyone? It's a nice position to have, but how do you keep everyone happy? How do you decide who's going to play what games?
I think it's. I'm not a big believer in rotation. I'm a big believer in performance, and you create competition in every position. And as long as a manager and as a coaching staff, you are fair, and you set certain bars and certain, in my opinion, kind of a box you can tick in a given week, and then you put the best 18 in the selection. That not only is not just it's the best players, but it's the 18 that gives you the balance and the variety you need in a given game. So, for example, you need definitely one central defender to sit on the bench. You need 1 or 2 outside defenders. You need 1 player in midfield, at least that can play a whole new role. So, yeah, they all know where they are and they're fighting for it. And I think we had a morning session here in the stadium, and I was so impressed with the professionalism of the whole group. And James Cameron was one of our unsung heroes last season. He's out of the 18. Elias Sim is like one of the most steady performer in the league. He's out of the 18. So they have 2 choices. They give up, they fight, they work hard to come back into the group. And it's all performance based. And it's not about, I want to have this many local players, this many. we're all one, everyone. I'm not Canadian, but I'll bleed for this city. I'll bleed for this club. I'll fight till death to make this team better. And that's what we're looking for in this club. Now, everyone is one, all of us. The sum becomes one VFC, regardless of where they were born.
Actually, there's some maybe around the country where they sell the squad building, but maybe they're a little surprised at the dominance of the performance today. I wonder if you could just talk about how this is simply a progression of what you've been doing in the preseason, and really it's kind of in line with how the trajectory you've been on.
I think for everyone around the country, this project is very pure. It's very close to my heart and to the ownership heart, that because we wanted to do something different and something really special for the development of football in North America, especially Canada. And I know Rob for many years, and when you sit with Rob Friend and I, and we speak about football, it has a complete different meaning than most ownership about football. He wants to do something that allows a young, talented Canadian player to have the best training, the best culture, the best environment to develop so you can go to the next level. So winning is important, championship is important. Even more important is how do we develop men? How do we develop the characters and personalities that can inspire a whole nation in the future as footballers or as just individuals? So that's why we put a lot of emphasis in signing good characters first, and then and characters that we can build with a club that can stand and be symbolic for something. And it started from day one, and it took us a while, but by mid-season we got it a little bit right. But you see, Renan and Vasco are not Canadians; they're not from this area, but they fought to the end, and they gave everything they had. When I see Kembo in the 89th minute chasing someone with a corner flag, he's not from this area. At that moment, the game is already 4-1. He can say, "Oh, I don't need to make that chase," but he goes and does it. That's what this club is about, and I think we're really on to something special.
You talk about clusters. Last year, there was never a cluster of 4 goals in a match. Or you can talk about the joys of that, but also how it helps you holistically throughout the team, including defending. You know that you can rely on your attack that way.
Well, I promised the fans we're going to play exciting football. We were pressing in the 89th minute, 90th minute, and I think we showed how fit we are that we can do that for long periods of time. And when you do that, you bring tempo to the game, and when you bring tempo to the game, you bring excitement. And I think there were a lot of chances that we had throughout the game, even when they were 11 against 11. And I think we'll become even more clinical. We'll become a little bit even more synchronized. Those microsecond and centimeters will get adjusted, and I think we'll just improve. And I think we're capable of scoring many goals from different positions, from different players.
And I talked about mentality with Paris just before he came, about how, and you will know because you've been here the entire time, how last season when you go a goal down early, you saw heads drop, you saw players saying that the game was already over, and that's what led to some of the defeats that you had. This year, the heads didn't drop you, and then you saw them, come as a collective, say we have to do better, and they turned it around and gave you a 4-1 performance. I mean, is that due not just to the experience, but the sort of brotherhood that is surrounding these players right now, and the way that they celebrate, and the way they are in Paris, that we're a family here? Is that as important as just the experience?
I think definitely. I think whenever there's unity is in any organizations and any team that has success, there is a united and a front, and everyone is happy to be together, right? So I feel that they enjoy being together, they enjoy playing together. A lot of them have known each other for a long time, so the trust that exists between each and every one of them allows them to overcome a deficit of a 0-1 in a game like today. But I understand Valour had a bad defeat today, but I think they're a difficult team to play against. They're a team that is they can catch you on counters. They're dangerous players on top that can score from the fewest chances, and then they defend with a venom that they can't get the ball. They're kicking you, they're pushing you, they're hitting you. So it's not an easy team, and I think we did well because of our relentless pressure we put on them in defending, and also when we had the ball, that got us the second, third, and fourth game.
He's the gaffer. You can't try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall. Has
The gaffers there just chatting about that VFC derby. I think that's what we can call it. I was sitting listening to Afshin after the game, thinking to myself, we're quite blessed here in BC with the head coaches that we've got with the two big professional teams. They give so much when they're talking.
Yeah.
And you could genuinely sit and listen to Vanny and Afshin all day.
Yeah.
His first answer to my first question was about, 4-5 minutes, it kind of felt. And it was just so thorough. It was just like fantastic. I thought because then Caitlin had stopped and I thought she was going to say, he's gone on quite long, don't ask any more questions. But it was just to let him get his breath back. But no, I think we're lucky to have those guys here just because their insights that they like to give after games. I think we've been fortunate, Whitecaps-wise in Vancouver, all the head coaches gave very long answers in the post-game pressers, and some of the other head coaches don't do that. Talking about a few things then, just to wrap up this part, coming out of it. We talked about the camaraderie of the team. It was interesting hearing Afshin talk about the local players and how they were maybe put them off their game a little bit in the first half because they knew they had friends and family out and they're a little bit maybe wanting to impress too much. And then he told them at half-time, look, it doesn't matter how you do, win, lose or draw, they're still going to love you, they're still going to think you're great. I think that's a little bit maybe, not hyperbole, but just a little bit expanding the truth as to how they were feeling. I don't know that professionals would be that put off. Maybe they would be. But it was a good turnout today, just over 4,000 officially. Not quite sure that's what was in the stadium. The lowest of the four crowds, but a great first attendance, and hopefully they can keep that going now.
Yeah, when it comes to the local players, maybe the hockey analogy of what is it when you like you tighten up on your stick, like you're holding your stick so tight because you're stressed out or you're tense or whatever. I think that's kind of what it might have felt for those players of obviously wanting to impress their families and their loved ones. And I think Ashton I wasn't quite sure if that's what he said to them before the game or at halftime to kind of relieve the stress or the pressure.
I took it that he'd said that to them at halftime.
That's what I took it too, but in terms of the the game and the stadium and whatever, it was not as good as the inaugural match at home. Obviously, that was sellout crowd and whatever, but it was overall.
I wasn't there, so they lost that.
No, they
they didn't win it. Yeah,
Meyer Bevan dove and got a red card.
Oh, you and your Meyer Bevan fixation.
You can't get away from it. But no,
we love Kiwis here.
But no, it was so obviously, if you watch the game, you'll be like, oh yeah, there's not many people. You can tell though that they're working harder to get more. Like, so last year the camera, you talk about Ottawa and their camera side issues. Last year they were trying to do group sales in the camera side, and that's where they were focusing on. And so that's why there was it was not as it was more sparse over there. But this year they're selling more tickets over there, and so there was more people over there, and less.
Yeah, it did look busier on that side.
Yeah, so it's not perfect. It's not it's not full, but it was I think a great day out for everyone who's there, and will be encouraging for people to come back. There were also quite a few people in the north end where you took in part of the game, and there was also a number of people on that east side who watched from the fence that we noticed. We're like, oh, there's a lot of people just who want to watch it at eye level, be a little bit closer, and whatever. And then there was just it was the first official match in the Eagle kit, which meant that the Eagle was there.
Yeah, because the announcer had said, here's our mascot, Hercules. And I said to Phillip, who fucking names their kid Hercules? And he's like, I don't think it's a kid.
Yeah, it was not a kid, Michael.
No, it was an eagle. You can check out my video, which there is an eagle in it for the whole video. You might have to strain to see it, but then at the end you do see it as it lands on Callum Irving. It flew over the Valour players as they were warming up, and I'm sure they must have been like, "What? There's an eagle above us.
Oh yeah.
I was worried he was going to leave the stadium at one point.
Well, apparently I found out after that was because we were using the drum to sing with. And the drum, I think, as soon as they started playing the drum, he flew towards that end. So we got to figure out if they're going to. I think they're going to hopefully have him there again at some point. We'll just make sure we make it more accommodating for him. Yeah,
I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I just assumed it was going to be every game now.
When he started to go that way because supposedly of the drum sound or whatever. Yeah, apparently a couple of the handlers were like sprinting out after. But if you just watch the highlight video, from One Soccer or whatever, you can see the end of it where he lands on the glove where Callum's holding some kind of treat for him or whatever it is, and yeah, it's just a nice thing. Obviously, Eintracht Frankfurt, who are Eagles, have an eagle at some of their games or all their games or whatever, and LAFC has adopted the eagle and done some. I think it's an eagle, some kind of bird of prey, and they do stuff. I don't know if you've seen it. Did I tell you about it? I think I told you about it after I went to the game there last year. They have an eagle in it, they have a bird of prey of some kind. I don't want to misname it, and it flies down onto the field and like grabs a toy, and on the toy is like a picture of their opponent's logo or whatever.
Oh, superb!
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So, yeah. Anyways, it was really great, really encouraging, and then we'll see this year, in a different way than last year, if the quality of football, the results, the performances, the number of goals, the local players, all these things help with an uptick of people coming to the games. Next game, like you said, is Thursday
night, 7:00. Don't like the midweek 7:00 starts because Highway 1 is a nightmare.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it'll also be interesting to see people who heard about what happened in Sunday's game, if that encourages people to for that.
To kind of mirror what you said at the end of the first part, I would encourage people to get out to this.
Yeah.
This isn't planned that we were going to do this for these two teams, but it's like it's a great atmosphere. It's a great stadium. If you want, you can have your seat, or you can go down to the fence and watch at pitch level, which I really love. Got a message from our photographer Tom, whose photos have just gone up, saying it was a good vibe today. The team looks cohesive. They play a fairly appealing style. Should be a fun season. They play some lovely football. They move the ball around so well. This is going to be a fun team to watch. And Afshin Ghotbi likes his teams to play an attacking style. And I think if you've not been out at a game, go and check one out. You won't be disappointed. It's a good vibe. It's free parking, plentiful parking as well. And it's just a winning team always helps, but it feels like it's going to be a really good season to get out to games there.
If you want to get tickets, the Fanatics have tickets for, I think it's like $20 for adults and $10 for kids 6 to 15 or whatever, something like that. And that's in the general admission section, so you can be in with the Fanatics in section N, or you can go anywhere in that south end if you want. So, yeah, be in touch.
I just want to finish by just talking about two players very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Non-local players. Vasco Fry, I thought was outstanding today.
Yeah.
Afshin Ghotbi described him as a Hoover. Kind of compared him to Makalele from the Real Madrid days.
Yeah.
And
the water carrier.
He was excellent. Like,
he was.
You look at that and you're thinking the Whitecaps are going to look at you and potentially bring you back in at some point if you keep up, or you've got a bigger move to come. But he was really good, building on how well he played at the end of last season, carrying it into this season. So I was delighted for Vasco, delighted to see him play well, another player that we spoke with. And Moses Dyer, which I want to hear you singing Dyer's on fire, because that just goes well.
The problem is that for last year we used that for Gabby. So we sang.
I heard you singing it today, and I thought, I'm not sure who you're singing that about.
Yeah, it's for Gabby. Yeah, Moses, what did we...
You're going down in a burning ring of Dyer. And it's Dyer. The ring of Dyer.
I think today we're just in the moment. Yeah, there's not a chosen song for him. A couple people like Paris G has one, but
Here's one. I'm a dire starter. Famous dire starter. I'm just
Oh
I'm trying to work through all my Fire songs in my head here.
oh my God.
Oh, we've got Moses Dyer. Or, oh, I'll have sex with Dyer if he scores lots of goals.
Oh my God.
Dyer's on fire. Oh, that would work, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, what I was going to say about Moses Dyer, which wasn't just to sing songs, my money's on him, Golden Boot winner.
Yeah, well, that was his 20th goal in the CPL, which in this a league that's in its sixth season now, is nothing to laugh.
No,
nothing
I
to sneeze at, but
genuinely think he can win the Golden Boot
yeah,
if he doesn't pick up stupid bookings for pushing players out of his way.
yeah.
But that was a good Sunday. A nice end to a good weekend for Vancouver FC. Doesn't finish our Vancouver FC chat because in our third and final part this week, we've got this week's feature interview with Vancouver's number one, Callum Irving, friend of the show. We'll be back with that after we take you back to 1974.
Hi, I'm Paris G, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca for all your family legal needs. And kicking off this part, we've taken you all the way back to 1974. It's glam time again. It's time to dig out the tartan. Edinburgh's finest, the Bay City Rollers, with their single, Shang a Lang. A single which spawned their TV show of the same name and was another huge breakthrough moment for the band. It reached number 2 in the UK charts and was the first song by the band to be released here in Canada. And that song was released on April 19th, 1974. Elsewhere in the music world, 50 years ago, the number 1 single in Canada this week was Elton John with Benny and the Jets, whereas the number 1 in the Billboard Hot 100 was the theme song for Soul Train, The Sound of Philadelphia, by MFSB featuring The 3 Degrees, whilst the number 1 single in the UK this week was still Terry Jacks' Seasons in the Sun that we featured on last week's show. In Whitecaps land, 50 years ago, finally something to talk about. It's been a quiet few weeks in Whitecaps land, way back in 74 as they prepared for their inaugural NASL season, but finally things were kicking into gear as the signing announcements started to come thick and fast. On Wednesday, April 17th, 3 more signings were announced by the club, bringing their roster to 9 players. Woo, nearly a whole team. They signed 3 local players, 2 of whom were Canadian-born and 1 of whom moved here in the late 60s. Defenders Neil Ellett and Jerry Heaney, and forward Brian Gant. Neil Ellett was a 6-foot-tall defender, went on to make 5 appearances for the Whitecaps in their inaugural season, scoring 1 goal. He also featured the following season for the Caps, making 19 appearances, but that was it for Ellett in the NASL. Fellow defender Jerry Heaney was also announced as a signing. The Scot had moved over to Vancouver in 1969, previously played professionally with 3rd Lanark, including playing for the High in their last ever season as a club, because the club folded in 1967 due to financial hardship and basically mismanagement really by those that ran the club. Heaney was another player that played 2 seasons for the Caps, 1974 and 1975. Made 4 appearances in the Whitecaps' inaugural season, 19 the following year. No goals registered, but 1 assist in 1975. And the 3rd player that was announced was Brian Gant, a midfielder that could also play as a forward. Gant had been playing locally with the New West Blues before signing for the Whitecaps, where he stayed for 3 years, making 20 appearances and scoring 6 goals with 1 assist in 1974, 18 appearances with 1 goal and 7 assists in 75, and then 5 appearances with 1 goal in his final season with the club in 1976. Went on though to play another 6 seasons in the NASL, down the I-5 with the Portland Timbers. Now, Gant was the first member of the Canadian national team to be signed by the Whitecaps, and unfortunately there had been a lot of disagreement behind the scenes between Canada Soccer and the Whitecaps as to who basically controlled the players. Now, this is going to kind of seem quite baffling to try and explain what the situation was, but Gant's contract with the Whitecaps had to be approved by the CSA before they could send it to NASL headquarters, and they were holding the contract up because they wanted to talk to Gant about what his future intentions were with the national team. Because Canada Soccer had scheduled training sessions during the Whitecaps season and also trips over to the UK and to Germany, and they basically wanted to know, will you come and play for Canada if we give you agreement to play for the Whitecaps, or is your loyalty with the Whitecaps? Gant said that he had signed with the Whitecaps with the full intention of playing out the entire season without interruption, but it just kind of showed the clash between the Whitecaps and Canada Soccer at that time. The Whitecaps had asked that all national team players that they wanted to sign would be made available to them from May to August, which isn't too far a stretch, really. And of course, this is way before like FIFA international windows and everything like that. CSA President Bill Sterling had no sympathy for the Whitecaps, saying, "I've told Denny Veach from day one that he should not count on using national team players." It's just baffling to look back at that now. Although it's also, you can kind of say, how much has Canada Soccer changed? How much back then and now can you say that they're doing everything they can to help the Canadian game? Now, another one of the Whitecaps' 9 signed players actually also arrived that day on Wednesday, April 17th. The one and only Bobby Lenarduzzi, who had finally made the trip over from England and his club Reading to join the Caps and took part in his first training session that day. The following day, Thursday, April 18th, the Whitecaps took their roster to 10 by adding another local player, 21-year-old midfielder Daryl Sampson. He was initially signed to a contract 2 weeks prior to that, but they couldn't announce it because of contract negotiations with Canada Soccer. Sampson became the 6th BC-based player to be signed by the club. and went on to feature in 6 matches for the Whitecaps in that inaugural season. Samson went on to have a 4-season career with the Whitecaps in total, making 6 appearances in 75, 9 in 1976, and 1 in 1977. Samson also registered 3 goals for the Whitecaps in the NASL, 1 in that inaugural season where he also got 2 assists, and 2 further goals coming in 1976. And that was This Week in Whitecaps Land, 1974. So from the past all the way up to the present, and it's time for this episode's feature interview, and we're keeping the Vancouver FC theme going as we sit down with VFC captain, friend of the show and friend of ours, Callum Irving. Callie came back to play for his hometown team last season, playing in all but one of their CPL appearances and playing in the Canadian Championship for the club as well, missing just 1 game due to sickness. But it was a tough first season, obviously, for everyone involved with the club, for Callie in particular, as we joke about here and we've joked about before, he's probably never had to pick the ball out of the back of the net as much as he did last season with the Eagles. But Callie is a leader in the team. He's such a strong presence in the dressing room, off the pitch as well, in the community. He wanted to come home, play for his hometown club. He's won a CPL championship with Pacific FC, and he hopes to do it again with Vancouver FC. Could it be this season? They've started off strongly. Let's see how the rest of the season plays out. But go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, and sit down and enjoy our chat with Callum Irving as he looks forward to the 2024 CPL season with Vancouver FC. Goalkeeper. So, Callum, welcome back to the show, and although we're recording this before the season opener, it's going to go out after this season opener, but let's just ask, how excited are you for the season to get underway on Sunday?
I'm super excited, and I think we're all very aware of how long the off season is for the CPL. You know, playing in a country like this with the winters that we have, it's just the nature of things. But for us, it's as players, it's the moment we wait for so long. Preseason has been about 2 months of work preparing for this moment. So I don't think we could be any more excited and any more ready for it.
Now, I don't want to delve too much into last year. We've talked about it before. It's all in the past. But 2 things I do want to ask you about last year. One, what were your personal high points from that inaugural season? About a year ago, we sat down before the first home game and I said, this will be your first time playing a pro game in your home sort of city. Mm-hmm. And it's like, now we've fast forwarded a year. So what do you take out as your personal high points from last year?
Definitely that home opener was one of them. Just seeing how packed that stadium was, seeing so many familiar faces alongside my family and close friends and my partner and everybody. And so that was a special moment. I think the kind of culmination of all the hard work that went in over the kind of short period of time that it took to get this club up and running. And then our first home victory against Forge, that was pretty special. And then the late game winners that we had near the end of the season against Halifax and Ottawa. Those were moments that I feel like we made a real connection with the fans. And I felt like in the games that followed, you could feel that there were people who had witnessed those victories that kind of brought an energy to the next games in the stands. And it felt like we were starting to build something special, at Willoughby. And so it was unfortunate that we started that quite late in the season. And we unfortunately had to take a long hiatus from playing in front of people. But we're hoping that we can kind of bring that into this season and have a few more of those moments.
Yeah, it was frustrating, I think, because you saw how the team was flying, and it's like another month, and what maybe could have been. It kind of all finished just so early.
Mm-hmm.
How pissed off were you that you had to miss a game and you didn't get an ever present?
I mean, that's just that's a goal of mine every season. I want to play every minute available, and make myself available for every minute first and foremost. So, I was obviously disappointed in the fact that I wasn't able to be there and help the team. And it's a personal goal of mine, but ultimately the thing I care most about is 3 points. So the fact that the team won, regardless of whether or not I was there, that kept me sane. And I was also happy for Jeremy to get his first professional game and start. And so, there's silver linings to everything, but as a competitor, yes, definitely I was disappointed, but as a teammate and player, it's the nature of things. And I think there was a lot of good things that came out of it.
Yeah, I'm delighted for Jeremy. He was excellent in that game. I think that might actually have been my first game I got to in person as well, and it was my first win or something. So it's like it was a special day. So let's get right up to date. How different does it feel going into 2024 than a year ago?
Yeah, it's I don't know if I want to say complete 180, but it's pretty big change. Not only, in the locker room in terms of, player personnel and everything, but just in terms of, how the day-to-day is run, the facility that we're using, the kind of scheduling of everything, because, we have such great people that work for this club, but last year everything was basically just a rush. Everybody was racing against time to try and get things over the line. And so, we did the best with what we had time-wise, facility-wise, resource-wise. And this year, with a proper offseason, and the kind of people that we have around the club, I thought coming in on day one of preseason, it was just a massive difference in terms of the kind of quality of life of our day-to-day. And that's the most important, right? Because most people see us on Saturdays, and see us at game day, and that's what they see for a professional athlete. But for us, the majority of our time is spent, coming into training, being in the locker room, being in the medical room, in meetings, on the training pitch, things like that. And so I think all those areas have improved dramatically. And that does a whole lot for us physically, but as well mentally in preparing for a season and helping us feel good and ready. And so, I feel like it's a whole new team, almost a whole new club in a way, compared to last season. So I'm very, very proud of the work that was done in getting us here, and excited for where it'll hopefully take us.
You talk about the changes. Obviously, you have a new dressing room, and that also means that the bullpen for the office staff, they also now have windows in their office, which is a massive, massive new thing. Talk a little bit about some of the differences there, Callum. Can you speak to the last year you had a handful of local players, and this season that's been at least doubled, if not more. Can you talk about the excitement around that for yourself, for the team, for the community, and what you think is significant about that?
Yeah, I think it's, across the league, I think the basis for each club is sort of, you want to have a core of guys who get what it means to play in the city, and understand, the culture of the community. And then when you have people like that, kind of as a core, then they can bring everybody else in. And I thought last year we had some great local players. And then this year, we definitely made a focus of trying to bring in guys from around the league that were BC boys, with professional experience, as well as, trying to promote some more young talent. And I think we've struck a really good balance in terms of local and, abroad and across Canada. And, for the guys that aren't local, I think as soon as they arrive in Vancouver, they realize what it means to play in a city like this. And then for the local guys, I think it means so much for them to play in front of friends and family. And so I'm excited for all of them who weren't here last year to get that opportunity to do it 14 times this year, as opposed to the twice that maybe some of them got last year playing away. And I'm buzzing about that. For me, it's a point of pride, and it's been great bringing all these guys home.
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I've liked the build because it's guys that I've known, it's guys that I'm invested in, and with all respect to the local guys last year, I didn't know a lot of them. So to see Ben and you team up again, that's exciting. To see some of the WFC2 guys that I've watched the last couple of seasons, that's exciting. Zach Verhoeven, that I've been with him his whole career, and now seeing him come back, for me, that's exciting. Hopefully that then translates to, well, it'll be more bums and seats for sure from family members that's going to be turning up. But this might sound a silly question, but does it feel different when the bulk of the squad is from the city, or the province at least?
Yeah, I think so. I think most places that you would play in the world, apart from maybe you play in the very, very top in the Champions League, those kind of clubs are going to be just assembling the best squads possible. But I think throughout the world, what you see is that the clubs are built upon local players, right? And so you kind of, as a foreigner, as somebody from a different city, going into a club in a city that you're not from, you definitely get the feeling of who's from there, and then those guys can really help you associate with the city, get to know it, get to know the fans, get to know the culture and everything. And so I think last year, we were kind of an interesting group that was assembled in that short period of time of people from all over the place. Whereas this year, like when you think of Vancouver FC, it really feels like Vancouver FC with a bunch of great additions, of guys from kind of all over the place that are coming in and bringing, quality to this club. But it feels right when you see guys that you grew up playing with, playing against, following their careers. It feels right seeing them in the locker room and seeing their family out at games and feeling that community presence in a league like ours. So, it's a good feeling, that's for sure.
It's a good mix, I think, as well in the squad. I was just having a quick look there. I couldn't remember how old you were. So 31, just turned. Belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
When you look at the mix, like I think Renan Garcia coming in last season was huge because he's like a consummate professional. And I was so impressed when we spoke to him as well. And now you've got the opposite end of the spectrum where you've got a guy like Grady that's basically almost half your age. Do you feel old when you see guys like that coming through?
It's funny. When you look at the ages, it definitely makes you feel old. Mostly when you talk about the year that they were born in and what you were doing in those years. You talk to Grady, and he's born in 2008, so he wasn't even alive for the 2006 World Cup. He wasn't even alive when Zidane headbutted Materazzi. He wasn't in existence when that happened, and now he's playing professional football with like myself, who I don't consider to be that old of a person. No. So it's interesting, the perspective there. But in terms of day to day, I still feel very, very young. I think most people, they say when they age, they you don't necessarily feel it mentally. Maybe you feel it a bit more physically over the years, but for me, I feel great physically, and then mentally, I'm also still fresh, still ambitious, and so. I feel like we all have something in common when we show up to work that kind of takes away the age. Renan is one of the youngest guys that I know, honestly. The way he acts, the way his energy is, how he takes care of himself. He's not a 37, 38-year-old, it seems like he's in the early stages of his career. So yeah, there's definitely a pretty wild age difference within the group to some degree. But we all have a real common ground when it comes to coming to work and doing our jobs. So I love the mix of the group. It definitely gives me energy seeing these young guys.
Yeah, I feel ancient because I'm like 3 times Grady's age. It's like, oh man. The competition in the squad this season is going to be absolutely massive. I mean, one of the things we've talked about, and whilst on the one hand it's a great problem for Afshin to have. You've got so many places battling out for different spots. On the other hand, he has to then try and keep everyone happy, which he's been involved in the game long enough to know that is not an easy thing to do. But it does look like every single position, like even if there's injuries, you've got at least 2 players that can play in every single position.
Yeah. It's important at this level, but it's difficult to do. In a salary cap league, it's not easy to build a really balanced roster, right? That's competitive. It takes a lot of work from people in the front office and the staff, the coaching staff, and so the group that we have here, you have to work hard day in, day out in training. Otherwise, somebody's going to take your spot, and if somebody takes your spot, that opportunity comes up. somebody's going to be ready. And we have quality, we have depth. And I think, obviously you want competition so that if people are, taking it for granted, then they'll have a harsh realization when they're sitting on the bench. But I don't see that as much with this team. I don't really see people taking it for granted and putting in poor training or poor performances. I more so see it in the fact that it's a long season with a lot of travel, and injuries will happen, fatigue will happen. And so no matter what, we're going to work through our roster, and people will need to provide quality minutes all throughout the pitch at some point in the season. And so we just need to make sure that we keep everybody, focused on the ultimate goal. And that's a team goal of winning a championship that everybody gets to celebrate regardless of how much you play. And I think back to when I won it with Pacific FC, we played a semifinal against Calvary. And in that game, Kunle Dadalug, I know it's considered an own goal, but he pretty much scored the game winner for us in extra time. And earlier that year, Caden Chung is our right back, right?
Yeah.
So, you think, Kunle, how are you going to play ahead of Caden Chung? I think, he's a young pro struggling to find his way, but he stuck with it. He pushed through some of the harder times for himself. And then at the end of the season, he scored maybe our second most important goal of the entire year. To get us into the final away at Calvary, right? So he played a massive role in us winning a championship. And that's somebody who 6 months prior was on the outskirts of the squad and feeling pretty down about himself. So that just goes to show that, the full roster has value. And you never know when your name will be called. You never know how big the moment will be when it does get called. So I'm really psyched about the fact that we actually have quality depth all throughout the field. And I'm looking forward to see when guys take their opportunities.
Callie, until about a week or so ago, that competition for places was only kind of on the outfield. And last week, with the addition of Nico, that competition has been added to your position as well. I just wonder if you could talk about obviously, like you said, you want to play every game, you want to play every minute. You work hard to make that happen, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you can talk about what it means for you personally now to have a person who's a backup who is an experienced keeper within the league, and how that maybe spurs you on.
Yeah, I think it's all about creating a competitive training environment, right? And so I think for goalkeepers, our training environment is super important because it's a very small group in a very individualized position where only one guy can play. So you need to be able to find a really good balance of obviously quality, but also quality as a person, It's a unique position. I've seen kind of all sides of it, playing every minute. I've seen it where I've had to kind of, wait my turn. I've seen it where I've been bumped down to third string and not traveling. So I've kind of seen all areas of what it means to be a goalkeeper in the professional game. And so I'm very aware of, the highs and the lows. But I think when you add somebody like Nico, he's fit right in because first and foremost, he's just a good guy, He doesn't have an ego on him. He's very laid back and relaxed when it comes to off the field. But when he steps on the field, he takes it seriously. He works really hard. And, like I said, these seasons are long and you never know what's going to happen, whether it be injury, fatigue, sickness, whatever. But you want to know that in those moments, you have people who are serious professionals that have been training properly and are ready to perform when their name is called, right? And that goes right through the team from the goalkeeper up to the striker. And so I think it was an important addition to make. And we'll definitely be pushing each other all year in training, trying to get the best out of one another. And then hopefully that brings the best out of us on the field and leads us to a championship. Because like I said as well, when we win, we all win, right? We all celebrate. And that's the beauty of winning is that it's a team effort truly. And so, I'm looking forward to working with him. It's been great so far. And that kind of rounds out the competitiveness within the squad, as you say.
Yeah. And I did this joke last week. I'll do it again. Every team needs a big name. And at 13 letters, you don't get much bigger than Nico. But last two things from me. I joked with you at the end of last season that I don't think I've seen you pick the ball out the back of the net as much as you had to do last year. But in front of you this year, the defence seems to be the biggest overhaul. And it gives you options to play 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, however Afshin wants to line up in certain games.
Yeah.
That, as a goalkeeper, that must also excite you. That, with all due respect to everyone that played last year, it's a lot stronger defensively this year.
Yeah, I think, it's professional football, right? So you need to genuinely look at your weaknesses and try and address those in the off season. And it's never personal. It's always, trying to find improvement. And I think you look at how many goals we shipped last year. It's not just on the back line, but I think, we were playing with a lot of guys who were learning on the fly. And when you're learning on the fly in a back four, the mistakes that are going to be made are going to be costly, right? If you're learning on the fly as a winger, okay, maybe you don't score a certain goal, maybe you don't, pick up an assist here or there, you lose possession a few times, but ultimately, the effect is a little bit negated. Whereas, if you're working in the back four and you're trying to find your feet in a league like this, you can get found out pretty quickly. And I thought last year a lot of the guys stepped up and did really, really well. But naturally, we were looking to try and improve in that area and find some more experience and just more competitiveness, because, bringing in experience and the guys that we brought in doesn't guarantee them a place in the team. But it brings out competition for the young guys who took a step last year, and see if they can make a step this year. And then, see if the guys with experience can bring a bit of steadiness to the ship. And I thought this preseason, it's been great working with David Norman, with Paris, getting Caden, back and healthy. And I thought Rocco has taken a really big step in preseason from last year. And then we have guys like James, Anthony, Mateo, Tyler Crawford, Elijah Ba. Like, these are all quality young footballers who have good pro experience that are going to be able to push for starting spots within this squad and keep everybody on their toes. So for me, it's been a real joy, because that back core really doesn't have much ego. They're all very easy to work with, and they just want to succeed and do well. And so I think there's been a really big improvement there, and I think that's brought the best out of kind of everybody that was here last year as well.
Just to kind of follow up on that a little bit and to address one of the things you mentioned earlier, but last year was very difficult in terms of the pressure you were under as a keeper and as a defense. But part of that was also because it was difficult to score goals last year for Vancouver FC. I wonder if you can talk about how maybe that has changed, and specifically maybe with talking about, in contrast to all the local players who have come in, or all the BC players who have come in, there's been Dyer and Jose Navarro, along with obviously Wero Diaz is still here. If you talk about how they will help you be under less pressure this year as a defense.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Naturally, if every game is a 0-0 and you're hoping on a goal, I think that's we did feel that pressure last year, definitely, where we were struggling to kind of piece together attacks at times. We had injuries to key players, like Gabby was injured for parts of last year, and he's quite influential for us. We're trying to find our footing. And so a lot of the time last year, we knew if we let in a goal, then our job just got way more difficult to try and pick up 3 points, right? Whereas this year, I think with the attacking quality that we brought in, mixed in with the guys that we kept from last year, like Mickey and Gabby and TJ and, those guys, it's exciting to see what they're going to be able to do. Obviously, the CPL is a tough league to score in. I think you see it every year with the golden boot numbers not being extremely, extremely high. It's tough to score goals in this league. But I think if you're trying to come up with a core of attacking players, I don't think you could really ask for much more than what we've assembled here. And they're all really hard workers. They all want to succeed. They all want to do well for the team. And so I think definitely that's a way of taking pressure off the back line. But I think both kind of feed into one another. I think they feel very confident with what's behind them. And so they know that they can go and attack knowing that they feel secure at the back. And I think we feel, less pressure at the back in terms of, having to be the ones that are, securing victories for the team week in, week out, when we have guys that are able to put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. And not just one guy, not two guys, but multiple guys, I think. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with the additions we made up top, and within the midfield in terms of trying to address those issues that we had last year. Yeah, and I think we have kind of a good synergy going.
Last thing before the gardeners in my townhouse complex start, which they're right outside my house right now. Yeah, this is the 6th season of the league. It's your 5th season in the league. I know you've been involved with the union side of things in the last few years as well. How is it as a player now for the league? Is there a lot more contentment? Do you feel the players are getting listened to and your input's getting valued a lot more than it maybe was in the early days?
I think it's on its way. Right now, I think, the league recognized us and they've, I think CBA negotiations are on the way and, working towards there being a CBA. And I think once that happens, we will be listened to and we will have a strong voice within the league. And, I'm really proud of the work that's been done in getting us to this point by those who have been, doing a lot of the work. Dan Crook, our executive director, all the people on the board, Ben Fisk on our team is on the board, Marco, the president, former president Marcel, all those people, they've been working so hard behind the scenes, trying to be patient and trying to be understanding of the fact that, trying to build a professional league in Canada is a delicate balance. And there's a lot of stakeholders, including the players, that have opinions. And so, I think it's been a journey to get to this point, and I think everybody in the league would have liked to have gotten here earlier for sure. But the fact that we're here now, I'm hopeful that within this next year, there will definitely be a voice of the players being heard by the league on a regular basis, and that the collaboration between the league and the players is going to be one that's going to be extremely healthy and beneficial for both sides. I think every league in the world benefits from a strong player group and a union. I think it just creates legitimacy for the league. And so I know that we're on that path now. And so, we'll get there to the point where we'll be happy, I think, pretty soon. And then right now we're just, in the process of doing that. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, as always, Callum. Good luck on Sunday, even though this will air after the game. Hopefully it's gone well. I'm looking forward to seeing this season. I'm very excited for what's in store for the team this season. Fingers crossed we get that Vancouver Canadian Championship derby as well. That many of us. Yeah. Oh, I would love that. Although TSS might be back in it now as well, so I might be a little bit more involved with that as well now. But good luck this season, and yeah, all the very best to you, Callie.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks, Zach, as well.
Callum Irving there. Great catching up with Callie. Good chat with him as always. And he'll be disappointed he didn't get the clean sheet today, I'm sure. Happy with the victory, of course. But we touched on it on last week's show, Zach. He's got that competition now to keep him hungry. Not that he needs to stay hungry. He's a guy, he's a professional. He's always going to be hungry. But he's got Nico Giansopoulos pushing him. And he's got a good defence in front of him this year.
Oh yeah, it's not even just the improvements in the defense, like we talked about briefly with Afshin after the game. It's also the fact that there's so many threats up front and to score goals, and that changes things for your defense when you're not always under pressure or you're not worried. It's not like how many goals are we going to give up today. It's more like how many goals are we going to score today. And yeah, if we give up like in this match, if you give up one, it's not the end of the world, right? So there's so many different. The dynamics are so different this year that it impacts the balance of the team greatly, and so it helps Callum. I agree with you though that I can't remember if I said that on the show last week, but yeah, I heard that he raised as soon as Nico was I think in camp, it kind of raised his own level, and so that's good. It keeps him sharp, keeps him on his toes, and he knows that he needs to. Be the best Callum he can be to keep that role, and we all want him to keep that role, right? Like we all really appreciate him. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Only missed the one game last year, and yeah, he could go another season without missing a game. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Fingers crossed. Well, that is it for the football chat. It's not it for the show, of course. Actually, it won't be it for the football chat either, because we've got our goodbyes coming up and have a few football things to talk about. But what I'm trying to say is it's time for this week's Wavelength. And we're going back to 2014 this time around, and a band we've featured several times before in the segment. It's an Irish band, based though out of Berlin in Germany. They're called My Brother Woody. They have a number of football songs, and this is one that you can find on their 2014 album, Random Football Musings Set to Music. And I'm not saying it's dedicated to Brian White for that header that he had in the first half, but this is My Brother Woody, 50p Head.
Keep it on the ground, no more high balls in. With my 50p shaped head, you know how that's gonna end. Ball at my feet, I can do anything. Pass, move, shoot, great goal, another win. But there's always one big problem. Heptagonal shaped, attracting open mouth gapes. That same fan's chant fills me with dread. He's got a 50p, he's got a 50p head, 50p head. Any direction the ball can go, it's a total lottery. Squirm as the crowd mocks me, another aimless hoof from our center back. Screams, get your head on it. Don't know to cry or laugh, but oh, here comes that chant again. Heptagonal shaped, attracting open mouth gapes. That same fan's chant fills me with dread. He's got a 50p, he's got a 50p head, 50p head. Shaped, attracting open mouth gapes. That same fan's chant fills me with dread. He's got a 50p, he's got a 50p head, 50p head. Heptagonal shaped, open mouth gapes, fills me with dread. 50p head.
My Brother Woody, 50p head there. It's a phrase I did utter in the press box at the Whitecaps game on Saturday, and I was like, I've got a song about that. Now, I should also probably explain the term 50p head. If anyone is familiar with UK coinage, the 50p piece is a hexagonal shaped coin, and the phrase 50p head has kind of been coined for players who, when the ball comes in and they go up for headers, who knows where it's going to go because maybe it hits a funny shape in their head. Hence, 50p head. But of course, Brian White did score a fantastic header on Saturday, so maybe not an apt moniker for him. That is it now, pretty much for the show. We've just got our goodbyes and our final things to chat about, which there is some football things I definitely want to chat about. Zach, though, where can folk find you online, and anything caught your eye this week? Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on X occasionally tweeting at Zachary AM. I think there's two things that I want to mention. Football things. Is that okay, Michael?
Of course. It's a
Uh, the,
football show.
the
Some folk
first
might
one,
listen to it and not think that, but it's a football show.
the first one is now the phrase is has been changed from Neverkusen to Neverkusen no more. Today,
Oh, did they win?
Bayer Leverkusen has won their first ever Bundesliga title. Also breaking the dominance of Bayern at the top.
Yes.
And
Come on, the pill poppers.
massive pitch invasion and just kind of joyous scenes all around for the pill poppers for the aspirin side. And then in a similar vein, I just want to I don't know if you've seen the scenes. I assume you have, but the back to back promotions of Wrexham.
Yeah.
You're not happy with that?
I have mixed feelings on this.
Because it's just the influx of money?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just it's like it's great for the fans, and I've always had a soft spot for Wrexham way past, because the racecourse ground, the original proper before it was all fancy with the new stuff, was a proper classic football ground. And I always remember them beating Arsenal in the FA Cup. And it as a Welsh team playing in England, I always had a soft spot for them. And then they went out the league, and you hoped they were going to come back in. So it's great that they're back in. It's great for their long-suffering fans. I just don't like any club. It'd be different, of course, if it was my own. I'd be very two-faced about that. We've spoken about that on the East 5 podcast. If someone came in with money and did to us what happened with Gretna, you'd be like, yay, who cares? We've got money. But I just don't like to see it. I don't like that influx of money. I know the Hollywood malarkey.
Yeah. I just think this influx of money is different than some of the other influxes, right? Like, Gretna it felt like, okay, how long is
Well, Gretna was one man.
Yeah, exactly.
He did so much for his club, but then as soon as he died, his family were like, yep, well, you're getting no more money. And then they went bust.
And when you have these oil states or whatever by your club, it's whatever, I think I think the thing that's most intriguing for me, Michael, is the fact that you have it's two dudes and one of them is a Canadian, right? Who's investing in football in a different country and kind of
instead of his local team.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, it's intriguing. It's
really intriguing, and I have watched documentaries. I haven't really watched the big TV show because I don't have Disney Plus at the moment. I've seen quite a few episodes of it, but not all of it. And yeah, it was great when they were having FA Cup runs and turning folk over and stuff. And how far can they go? It's like they've got this momentum just now. League One is a tough league to get out of. Leeds, Sunderland were stuck in League One for many a year, and they had money behind them. So that's not a league you can just throw money at to get out of. Wimbledon got out of League Two, and they've got no budget. So it's like League Two is a league you can get out of. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see, how meteoric their rise goes. Whether it's short term, long term, can they get Wrexham to the Premier League? Because obviously that's their ideal, their goal, right?
Yeah, I would not put it past them. Next season could be their toughest season. In the rise to the Premier, I think next season will be their toughest season.
And I wouldn't disagree with you on that.
If they can get out of it next season, it's like I think they'll go straight. It'll be back to back to back to back, which would be fantastic to see in one way. But again, just the whole money thing just doesn't sit comfortably with me. Money ruins football.
Do you know how much more they're spending than their opponents?
I don't.
That's one thing.
That would be an interesting thing to try and find out.
Yeah.
Last couple of football things I want to talk about. One's a sad one. The sad demise of one of the most tenured lower league clubs in Canada, Victoria Highlanders.
Oh, yeah.
Formed in 2008, played their first season in 2009. Rivals, to the Whitecaps in the old USL PDL, formed the Juan de Fuca Plate that is now played for in League One BC for all the clubs. But back then it was between Abbotsford Mariners, as they were, Highlanders and the Whitecaps. And the Highlanders won it one of the years, and they got in then to the PDL. They had the battles in the PDL. They had the battles with TSS Rovers when the Rovers then joined the PDL, and the Juan de Fuca Plate was played for then. It's such an important team for me in the history of BC soccer. So much was done by the ownership group past, the ownership group present, the Large brothers, and it was a community club. It was run by volunteers. That people didn't take money out of the club. Is that sustainable in the modern age? Sadly, again, we're going back to the money side of things. It doesn't appear so. League One, for League One to be what League One needs to be, it needs to be run at a standards level. It needs to be run as professional as a semi-professional league can be run. Is there a place for amateur clubs with a volunteer thing in that? I'd like to think that there is, but behind that, they need to have the money to be able to pay the fees, to the travel, because when you're a BC-wide league, especially when you're based on the island, your travel costs are through the roof. It's the same with Rivers and Kamloops. The travel costs are through the roof. I know how much the local mainland clubs are losing, never mind the ones that are having to travel for half their season, or get a ferry, in the Highlanders' case, for half their season. So it hasn't been sustainable in increased cost, increased expenditure, and they've sadly shut up shop. There's a lot more to it than has come out publicly. A lot of it can't really be talked about because of confidentiality agreements and stuff as well. But I would say don't believe everything that you see out there about it. But it's sad. I would say I'm disappointed that they left it so late to make the decision, because it really has thrown League One and the Canadian Championship in flux. At the time of recording this, no decision has officially been made yet as to what's happening with the Canadian Championship. Are Pacific getting a bye, or are TSS Rovers getting in? Hopefully, by the time folk listen to this, that decision might be out there, and hopefully it is that TSS are going to be going for a rematch with Pacific. But just all round, it's just... I just feel for the Highlanders, players in particular, who earned their chance to be in the Canadian Championship this year. As much as it broke my heart, that dramatic win over TSS, to be there commentating on that game, I feel proud to have witnessed that moment in the club's history, and those players deserve their chance to be in this tournament, and they've had that taken away from them. So I feel for them. The ownership group, as I said, the Large brothers, have done so much, and it's tough when you're battling a professional team in a small market like Victoria. The fan base, the Lakeside Boys, who used to be the supporters group for the Highlanders, had made the decision to just be the Pacific supporters group, but there was still a lot of the Highlanders supporters that were going to both teams as well. So I feel for all the supporters, all the volunteers, everyone as well. Hopefully they're not joined by some more clubs in the coming years, but it's sad to see.
Yeah, I see a couple of questions about that.
Yeah, I may not be able to answer everything, but yeah.
No. So I think I know some of the elements you're talking about that we can't talk about, so I don't want to ask you about that. But okay, let's talk about ownership first. Is Neindorf involved?
I don't know if he's involved in the ownership group, but he runs the academy.
But yeah, and then the other thing I just wanted to talk about is the club isn't actually fully going away. It's just the top end will no longer be there for now.
Yeah, so there will only be 7 teams in League One for this coming season. That gets underway in just under 2 weeks' time. We're actually
Has the schedule been updated?
It's been updated in that they've basically just everyone that was playing the Highlanders gets a bye week. So it's going to be it's going to be just a forfeit, and each team will get 3 points for that. Which, for Rivers' point of view, I mean, they must be cock a hoop, because they now have 6 points in the women's side, which is more than they've had in the first 2 years of playing in the league so far. So this is like their best season yet.
And they save all the money.
Yeah.
On the travel.
Obviously, I'm being partly facetious there.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of time for Rivers, in case you think I'm having a pop at them, because, again, they have it tough as well. Like, they have a horrendous time. 4-hour, 5-hour trips at best for away games. And you're doing that. You're having to play 2 games in a weekend, which Highlanders were trying to do as well to cut down on costs. It's the problem with the province being so vast. It's what we've talked about Canada for trying to get Canadian leagues up and running. It's just the costs and the vastness of the country, the vastness of our province. It doesn't make it easy.
No.
But League One's in a healthy state. There's a number of clubs interested in coming into it. So next week, we're actually going to have a little bit of a League One special. We'll have a bit of audio and some feature interviews around that for the season starting. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes firmly peeled to see what's happening with the Canadian Championship, and I'm keeping my fingers firmly crossed.
So that was your negative one. Do you have a nicer one to end on?
Yeah, the good thing I want to talk about just around the show, off Provincial Cup, quarterfinal weekend in the A Cup. Oh boy, what a weekend it has been. If it hadn't been the home opener today, I wanted to get out to the Vancouver United Hibernian Langley game. Couldn't get out for that. It went to penalty shootout. Hibernian tied it up deep into stoppage time to take it to penalties and then won, which was exactly what happened in the game on Friday night. If you haven't, go to AFTN's YouTube channel, AFTN Canada. Watch Coquitlam Metroford Croatia Provincial Cup. It's 1-0 going into stoppage time. A melee. 3 players sent off. One of who gets sent off for a really nice right hook that on the Croatia captain's chin that could have won a boxing match. You could have counted 1 to 10 like you did for that player in the game today. But it's 99th minute, last action of the game. Metroford get a corner. It gets played into the box. Player heads it on. The goalkeeper has gone up. He heads it in for the equaliser. And then Metroford go and win on penalties. Tremendous match. You've got to check it out for all that drama. But it was a great weekend. Because I can't go to Seattle next weekend, it does mean I'll be able to get out to both the A Cup semi-finals, maybe even get to 1 or 2, or hopefully both of the B Cup semi-finals as well. So we'll see how all that plays out. But if you're not going down to Seattle, go out and watch some local football. We'll have all the details on AFTN. It's a fantastic tournament to watch at all levels. But that is it for the show. We'll be back with another one soon. Until then, thanks for listening to our nonsense as always. Take care, mon the Caps, and mon the Eagles.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.